construct an identical base so that anybody that wants to use this animal is more than welcome. We're in the process of now recreating a base so that it can be used. I guess they had a pretty good little fundraiser using it. So it's certainly an option. Size of, just to let everybody know, it's not, 2 people can pick it up, but it's the size of one of these, tables.
Bulky.
Yeah, it's bulky. It's made out of like a hard rubber, and then it's just going to be on a stand, and you just walk it back and forth or whatever. But it's if people kind of plan things, or people traveling or whatever, it is something that could go in a horse trailer or in a cat room or something like that. If you were taking it to a rodeo and they were doing some kind of fundraising thing, in their vendor area or something, just let somebody know.
Just to let you know, it was in the barn in Harrisburg this couple weeks ago, and they even got pictures on the Keystone Facebook page of Adam on the bull. And for those of you that haven't met Adam, he's in a wheelchair, and he competes in speed events at our rodeos. But the pictures they posted from the fundraiser at the bar with the mechanical bull was a big hit. So.
They didn't show you.
I just got a question on the mechanical bull. When you pull the fundraiser, is he got that get liability insurance?
Yeah, he has.
Because people get hurt.
Adam created some, the weight of the deals where people sign, where he had those created and stuff like that, which I think everybody does that has those on their property. A liability.
And he'll send them to you.
Huh?
We have a copy, and he'll send it to you, and you just change your association name in there.
Okay.
We have a copy as well.
So that's something that I'll keep everybody updated when we have the second base, but it's something for people to use. Getting Mipsy on that would probably be a huge fundraiser.
I did it, and
I got $1 right now.
500.
Yes.
Okay.
You're not cheap, right?
Because of the time constraints, when Mary and I talked at Texas, I approved the logo being used on the IGRA. They had a fun little royalty fundraiser bottle thing or whatever, so I didn't think that was a huge thing, but it was approved. I guess we will go into the committee reports. Annual issues, none received. Archives, Roger's got all kinds of information for us.
Sorry I'm late. My car brake started acting up last night, so it's in the shop at the moment. But
Okay.
Good news is it's not as bad as I had thought. Did you get the revised one?
I did, and I sent it out last night. It's been distributed.
I don't know if you want to discuss it since you've all had an opportunity to read it. I've got a few things at the back to be voted on, and you can vote on them one at a time or vote on them as a lump sum. If you have any questions, I'll take them. I'm working on it on a daily basis. Right now, I took a few weeks off to go to Mexico, but I'm back at it. Do you want to vote on everything as one thing, or do you want to vote on them separately? On the budget, I'm looking for an increase in the budget.
Oh, we just got it last night, so we might need to review it back.
Okay, it was sent out with the original package, I think, and there's just a few changes that were made last night, which are in blue. So if you read it before, and you just need to read the blue part.
How did you send it out, Michael?
It should be in the attachments. Let me make sure I got this. I see it in the first attachment. 2 groups of attachments. Looking it up.
Andy, if you want to come back to this one later, if that's all right, then maybe have a chance to read it on the break or something.
What's it under?
It would say archives in the attachment. I can resend it. But it's
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
We're not seeing it.
Okay, we'll come back to that one then. David told me that we won't have a budget, right? Is that what we won't?
No.
Oh, we will have a budget?
Yeah, I sent that.
The
was
budget was sent out. Most of the changes are in the WGRF area, but there's a few other tweaks. And we'll need to have a motion to accept.
Okay.
Motion.
Mary made a motion to accept the budget of Jeffrey, Any discussion on the, go ahead, Michael.
No, second.
Oh. Any discussion on the budget? All those in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstention? Just had to be there. Okay.
So I will record the one nay.
One nay, one abstention.
Oh, one abstention, okay, one abstention.
We not have time to look at this stuff.
We will make sure that it's out very timely. There was, a few things happened before this meeting, both with, Michael being out of town, and I had a couple of.
Actually, I want to
Okay.
take a couple minutes to speak to that.
Okay.
When I took over, I created all these distribution lists, and I emailed all of the board members and said, last weekend is the deadline for submitting reports and agenda items and what have you. And I got sent to Boston for work, and I traveled once in 8 years, and now I'm on a whirlwind tour all over the place. But I got very little before signing. Then I was out of town. What is a reasonable deadline prior to our normal scheduled meetings? Do y'all want to say a week in advance, 2 weeks in advance? I arbitrarily set last Sunday as a deadline, and maybe that's too close to the meeting to get stuff out or whatever. Any thoughts, or is a week normally okay?
Probably 2 weeks, then you have the stuff a week ahead of time, to everybody.
Okay, I'm good with that. So,
Is that all right with everybody?
yeah.
That way it gives everybody a whole week to look at all the
Yes,
documents.
sir.
Yeah, my only comment on that is if you have the weekend to look it over, because like we've been traveling all week. We decided to make this a vacation, so.
Yeah.
Having the weekend before.
Yeah. The original plan, had I not been in Boston Monday, I would have sat there and gotten this all out, and then I'm sitting in Boston. They wanted me to cancel my trip, and I told my boss, not happening. And she said, well, you need to be, and I'm like, you're going. So, okay. So I'll set it 2 weeks, and then I'll have it sent out a week prior. So if you miss that 2 weeks, you've got a little window there.
Several.
One to be proud. All right. I did not email the attachments to Frank. I can email these attachments, and we can pull them up on the screen behind you if you like, Lisa.
I can't get them here.
Oh, you can't get them here, okay.
She has them, she just didn't have
Oh,
time to read them.
okay, agreed, okay.
I slept last night.
Me too.
That's overrated.
Despite the fact that I had all this stuff tested out last night, half of it's not working right now. And I have no
We're good,
internet
Frank.
connection, so I'm trying to use my personal connection.
We got it. All right, so there's several committees we have no reports. I think we're gonna move all the way down to the Roll Game Rodeo Finals. Laura?
Yes. We have one action item. We have a revised budget, and I believe all the trustees received the revised budget. They should have. Did everybody receive it?
I did.
Second attachment.
It's what you sent in your email,
It's
right?
part of the whole budget, so you've got the whole budget. If you go to WGRA, you'll see most of the changes tweaked there. So, since the budget was passed, that includes fines.
Okay. Well, there we go. There was one little item on the budget that we had to add in there, and that was the difference between income and expenses. We had an expense for medals, and then we had an expense for buckles, but we only had an income for buckles. So David has entered that in there. So the budget that we had $9,080 as a income after the rodeo, and now we're up to $10,080 for an income. It's a working budget. There are going to be some tweaks. One of them I just found out about, and that's fine, because we've lowballed a lot of this stuff, so we're going to be fine. As far as sponsorship, we do have the Jack Daniels. We also have Tito's, and our newest sponsor is FedEx. We just made that announcement last week. Regarding FedEx, and I want to thank Janet Staney for setting that all up. I made this statement in the meeting before this, but I'm going to make it again. If you have any questions regarding any sponsorship, bring it to me as the sponsorship chair. Do not ever go to the sponsor, because you have the possibility of ruining that relationship. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Yes, there was a couple things we talked about, obviously, in our prior meeting too. But I wanted to approach the board about it. You know, with finals coming up in October, you know, we do have the Dallas Gay Pride in September, which pulls in between, you know, 40 to 70,000 people for a 2-day event. And we also have additional big events going on that weekend. However, when we do our Gay Pride parade, this year we are actually teaming up with the Roundup Saloon, and we are working on getting a whole lot of horse people to come out to help us with color guard and mounted horseback. So what some of the members had asked is that, you know, we're actually going to be tossing out items for TGRAs, et cetera, the beads and whatnot. So somebody had thrown out there, you know, would IGRA be willing to have some beads made with their logo and maybe attach a sticker on the back saying, you know, rodeo is, you know, the 27th, 28th of October. Should you come to the rodeo and present this at the gate, you know, you get $1 or $2 off. Or something, you know, that will pull them in. So, you know, obviously that is above my pay grade, so I wanted to bring it to y'all so y'all could discuss it and hash it over. I think it'd be a great marketing idea, but again, it's, you know, it's up to y'all, and I just wanted to put it out there.
Do you have a process?
We do not have a price yet. I don't even know how much the beads are running. Tommy, you have maybe an idea?
I mean, for us to make a decision, I think we'd have to know what we're making a decision on. If you had a price of the little plastic logo, what you're trying to do is put a little plastic logo on the bead.
On it, yeah.
And then on the back, they put like a sticker with the information and what they can get.
I think it's a great idea, but I mean,
I'd say we could probably, $800 would probably cover it. I mean, that probably be, I don't know.
Go to orientaltradingcompany.com. They do that shit cheap.
Gene, I'm sorry.
Do you not already have a advertising budget as part of your budget or promotional type? And if so, is it already spent? Because if not, that's already approved. You can do what you want with that.
That's true.
Yeah, we have $4,000 in our advertising and marketing, so.
I don't see that there's a need for us to approve that you can choose to use that to advertise the rodeo any way you want to.
And I didn't even think about that, so thank you for clarifying that.
But if you would like to come out in September to Dallas Pride.
Is it, a lot of times it's the same time as one of our rodeos, is
It
it
is,
this year?
it's,
San Francisco.
Just
That's what I thought. Okay, hang on.
Michael, I think it is.
Michael?
And just, are you thinking of 10,000 beads, 20,000 beads, 100 beads? Any idea of the volume of, I'm just curious of the volume of beads you were thinking had in mind?
It depends on the cost, I'm sure.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Obviously, the more beads you throw out, the better chance you have to pull people.
I'm totally supporting you. I agree with you. Just curious.
One of the things I may suggest that you might look into, that some of them do, and I've seen at our pride parades as well as others, is they actually do the beads, but they're attached to, it's almost like your little business card, kind of like we did in TGR, just to hand out, that you put IGRA, you can direct them to the website, it gives them their information, they can pull that off there if they don't get the bead and put it in their pocket. And they attach it with a little ring thing. But anyway, you may want to look at that aspect versus the actual print.
So I just did a quick Google search. The pre-done Mardi Gras on Memorial and the trading 500 beads would be pre-done for like an $85 cost. But there is another site in there that's got a custom print where they will custom print the medallion. The necklaces they do are 2 sets of necklace. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be the possibility that this could be done relatively easily. But those are the ranges of costs that we would just start at the top.
Great, thank you, Jeffrey. Jack, and then, or,
I think Chuck was first. Steve was first.
oh, yeah.
No, just a point, I was looking at the finals budget, when we approved the finals, the grant and money that said that was gonna happen, is that included in this? You know, there was.
Well, no, there's, okay, so the paperwork's being done.
Okay.
And you turn it all in, so it's still a big possibility.
Yeah,
So
because
that-
we're between
that
15
be-
and 50,000, right? That's
Yeah.
what we're-
It's not included in this.
It's not
Yeah.
included in that.
So we'll know, it's actually in the works right now, and so you'll get your answers, we'll have it.
Okay, because I was just wondering if it was.
Yeah. No, so since those, you don't know that you're getting them yet, they didn't use it yet, but it is in the process. Who else? Jack?
I was just wondering why, I mean, I think it should be at the discretion of the committee. They have the budget, it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Just let them move forward. I don't think it needs a big discussion.
It doesn't.
Okay. Great idea.
That's your answer from the board. Y'all figure it out.
That's why we got it.
I think Mary needs to make a.
Oh, yes, royalty. Hi. Hey, everyone. So I just want to give you guys just a brief kind of report on kind of numbers and how the royalty team's doing. They're actually doing really good. So we have their required amount is $11,600 for the whole team. So far, they have raised over 9,000 of that. Yeah, and they've also done some other fundraisers, you know, for some of the associations, such as like I said, DSRA, AGRA, TGRA, and that amount is actually over $11,000 total that they've raised this year. So they've done a really good job. There's already 4 of our members have already actually over the requirements. So that's Mipsy Michaels, RJ Michaels, Christy Michaels, and Patty have all already reached the requirements. But everybody's on track. Everybody's doing a really good job. I just want you guys to go out there and just give them a big hand and tell them how much you appreciate them because they're doing great. So
We do.
yeah, anybody has any questions, just let me know. So thank you guys. That's all I got.
Any questions?
My question actually isn't for her, I want to go back to something.
Oh.
The position of committee chair, I believe for the last few years, they've wanted it to be someone who looks to the future.
Yes.
Has the Scottsdale contract been signed yet?
No, that's what I said a while ago, whenever it was, it's okay. Because that was something I wanted to talk to you about anyway, because you need to, since the hotel is kind of expensive, maybe we can contract or look at other places, but right after it was approved in Phoenix, I reached out to Carter and said, hey, I need a copy of the contract, and he declined, said that he doesn't sign anything that early in the future, which I thought was odd because of these places doing multiple year contracts, so I didn't understand his response. And Sam said that he's supposed to send one, I guess.
Because I'm going to talk to him about the fund, I'm going into talking to him about the funding anyway, I'm filling it out.
Okay.
And I'm going to talk about the contract and about trying to get it signed and done. And at the same time with the work on the hotel.
The reason I'm asking is I've already got a sponsor for that rodeo. Corona wants to come back on board in Arizona.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
hopefully.
Yeah, I did try to get it done right away, but haven't seen it yet. Okay.
Sam, you should be able to get a good copy of the contract. You don't have to be signed.
We have that.
We have that.
We have
I'm just
that.
saying if she doesn't have it, she needs it too, I mean,
Okay.
Sammy and I had already talked about talking
Yeah.
this weekend anyway.
Yeah, no, we've had that for several years, that contract.
Yeah,
You
we
just
just
plug in the numbers you
most
want.
places contract year and
hopefully
now.
it's changed from the one we were signed.
Yes, exactly.
We turned it down to years ago for a year ago for a reason, so hopefully that's.
No. Yeah, but
I know.
well, this is a different subject, I think, but
Yes.
to answer your question, no, all those were answered. We got those numbers all plugged in. Because what we turned down was there was ambiguity to what it could cost. We changed that.
Yep. Sorry, buddy.
What we proposed this year.
Moving forward, all the same, Amy.
We have 4 inductees this year. They've all been notified. They've all accepted. They're all planning on being present in Salt Lake City. And I actually sent this report to Michael last month. In the interim, actually yesterday, the buckles were ordered. Our person is on vacation this week at GIST, but we'll deal with that when she returns. So everything is going smoothly.
Any questions for Amy?
Just the obvious, which will never get done.
Yeah.
You'll just have to, wait till Salt Lake City.
Don't start guessing.
Mind you. Sure. Okay, Tom?
Thank you. Okay, just a couple of quick things really for me. First and foremost, Secretary Michael and I have a pet peeve. And that is membership reports. So there is a format outlined in the book. We really would like for you to follow that format, if at all possible.
They have responded that I reached out to, I believe. And some of them were minor and some of them more significant, but my understanding is I think they've all got their corrections.
It's just important, that this body relays the message to your membership chair. I mean, it's a matter of communicating from here to there, because I don't know your membership chairs. I only know you. So my information should flow from you to them to maintain those membership pages to us. Some years ago, we need to know our membership numbers, and if it's not in proper format, I have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for about 1,000 people, and that's, I really don't want to do that. So anyway, the other real quick thing, Candy, that I want to bring to your attention is a couple of visuals in the room from the merchandising department. And our Madam President is wearing one of our new looks here that we were requested by Madam President to be a little bit more feminine. And if I can do that, I will. If it's possible. If it's possible for me to get a little more girly. But anyway, so, and Rue is wearing, and Rue over there is sporting a new look as well. With that in mind, I have to tell you, Jean and I struggle sometimes in going in that direction, believe it or not. Sometimes we have blinders on toward the male contestant and male audience. So, with that being said, the merchandising committee would love to have a female member on that committee for input and help with that. And with that being said, another new look, Jean, if you'll stand up.
Yeah, that's really handsome.
We're branching out into a little bit more of the textile with a new look there, which we're getting very good response from. The shirt that Jean's wearing, that chocolate logo on there. And you're going to see some of those. Come by the merchandise booth Saturday and Sunday, and you're going to see some really exciting things.
Can I make a suggestion? Rue would be phenomenal on that committee, probably for y'all. Because she always is dressed very well, and especially if she's a girly girl.
She's a
So am I, but that hasn't occurred to me.
I'll let everybody know when I put this shirt on this morning, I turned around, she looked at me, she goes, "Oh, it's nice to see you wearing women's clothes." So, but I really appreciate Jean and Tommy and everybody. I did talk to them a little bit about this because I noticed that for years I'd walk over there and look at stuff And I said, you know, we're not reaching out to, you know, some of the younger crowd on, you know, some of the younger guys wear like V-necks and things like that, and certainly we didn't have one thing for females. So, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Come by the booth, you're gonna see some really, really cool stuff this weekend.
I do have a question on our merchandising. I'm assuming whenever I see anything, it always has got the IGRA logo. Have we ever thought about maybe putting stuff out there that is rodeo related or gay related, that isn't just the logo? I have a hat, I don't have it with me, it says, it's in rainbow flyers, and it says, "Let's Rodeo" on it. And I bought that from one of our earlier merchandisers. It's probably 30 years old now. I was wondering if we've ever thought about branching out into those kind of areas.
We kind of leave that for our vendors.
Can I address that? When, back before it was Tommy and I, it was Patrick and I, and when Patrick and I was doing it, we tried some of that, and it didn't work real well. Now, I personally have come to believe that it might not have been specific enough. It might have been too widespread that caused it not to go so well. Some of that stuff we just recently got rid of, and that's been 10 years ago that was that. So we can, if somebody can come up with some ideas specifically to do, but to just do a blanket of a whole bunch of different products didn't seem to work back then. I don't know exactly why, except for maybe not being rodeo specific enough for our people to buy it. That's just what we found.
We're trying to
I know years ago, in Texas, we used to do a rodeo t-shirt. And every year it was a different, it was typically the poster or whatever. And the association sold those t-shirts and made lots and lots. I mean, it was quite a collector's item. And so it was, you know, maybe that time has come and gone.
Yeah, it has.
Oh, well, okay, we are hearing what you're saying, and we are moving in that direction to try some different things, so stay tuned.
The problem with, I just want to address that t-shirt thing. The problem with t-shirts is to get a product that is profitable, and I can tell you from my experience in TGRA, we went through the same thing back there. You have to buy a certain amount of them. Then you have to pray like hell that you sell them.
Yeah.
Because if you don't sell them that year, then you're screwed with them. Because they're date specific. And we, the first thing that it started when Patrick had this.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can make we've never lost any money yet, thank God. But we've had t-shirts that we haven't made anything on because we couldn't sell them. The t-shirts that we previously sold paid for those, but we had a lot of waste.
Yeah.
And when you get into that kind of a product, you run that risk.
Yeah.
And maybe it's worth it, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm talking about t-shirts years, I mean, they never had we never put dates on them. It'd be like the shadow of the Rock Rider, and it just says rodeo and those type of things.
And honestly, we haven't tried any of that I've seen, and that maybe is something to look at.
Yeah.
The only thing I think that we do need to consider doing this, and the reason I say that is I'm thinking about actually Vegas at their rodeo. One of their vendors there, that was one of their vendors selling that opposite of what Nevada was selling, so I wound up buying both. And so again, we may cut out some of our possibility, and our vendors seem to get slimmer and slimmer at our rodeos. So that may cut out one of our vendors by having that generic stuff that vendor may have versus our logo stuff. It's something to consider. Keep in mind.
Any more discussion?
Thank you.
Frank sent the nominations committee report. Basically, they have no report at this point. They won't have a report until convention, basically.
Three more committee reports. Go ahead.
Yeah, mine was caught up in email with Michael, but I did send it. So just updating on what the trustees are doing. We've had email discussion with the trustee chairs on assisting associations that are hosting sanctioned rodeos to assure their websites have required information. Sam worked with the TGR Rodeo, made sure everything was good there. I worked with Steve. Steve worked with Palm Springs, everything was good there. I worked with Ron Trusley on IGRA to make sure we had everything there. Denver looks meticulous as always. Everything is there. There are some concerns with Keystone. I'm not sure who we need to reach out to, but there is some information that we need to get them on.
The Keystone trustee election is in process, and that will be settled by the 15th.
But who do we communicate with in lieu of?
Adam,
because he does the website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other than that, we are proposing, trying to get a template, something that each association uses that's consistent, so as a contestant, when you go look for the contestant information, it's kind of everything is right there. It would be easier for the associations to get the information out. And then I also distributed some documents, and Gene helped me with this as far as trying to make sure we go through our governing documents to list everything that's required, what's recommended, et cetera, just to make sure we're consistent with that. So I did put some things on the to be discussed. Part of that was Keystone's trustee, which Michael just gave us an update. Also, the Swanee River, Janine, she asked for information to be sent to her, but she's the president, so I'm not sure. We've got some overlapping of positions here. We need to make sure. So, and then Michael Lentz from IGRA, you had mentioned you're temporary. Is that still there?
No, I'm in.
You're permanent. Okay. Very good. That's all I have on my report. Thank you.
You the man.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions for Joe? Okay. Any other committee reports?
It's hot. Yeah, sorry, Tom said he sent it, but Michael, he said he sent it Monday.
Okay, I'll check my spam folder.
Okay. Anyway, just for the judges, all of the judges have taken exam, both their seminars and their exam, and all judges have passed. So we're in good shape for that. There are we are requesting the final interpretation of two rules that the trustees interpreted rodeos. One is the pole bending pattern that was interpreted by the trustees at the Phoenix Rodeo, and the second was the hat interpretation that was occurred at the Texas Rodeo. So the trustees need to make a final determination of those two interpretations. Sir?
Do those need to be posted at every rodeo?
Yes, sir. After they're decided date, yes, sir. They do.
So,
yes, sir.
They weren't interpreted at a rodeo though, because we can't do that at the rodeo. They were reviewed at the rodeo. The interpretation would come from today's
right.
meeting. So.
They were, so let me rephrase that.
I just want to make sure, because they weren't posted in Texas, the one though.
Okay, yeah, so it was a review that the trustees met about both of those. So now it's the responsibility of this body to do the full interpretation that will be applicable until convention.
Yeah, that's set for the trustees meeting agenda.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Convention, something that came up in the last conversation we had at our hotel. They have an ongoing contract that they've had for like 9 years. We didn't think it was going to affect us when we were going to be there. The only effect is how many people they have with that contract that are going to be booking. So once our block is booked, there might not be any more rooms available. At this point, it looks like it'll be fine, but I'm encouraging everybody to book as early as you can, because that way we can make sure if we do fill up our block, we can actually get extra rooms into that block. She'll let us put as many, I think, in as we have.
How many rooms do you have blocked off?
80, I think, for Friday, Saturday, and then from Thursday to Tuesday, I think we have rooms available still. The Friday, Saturday is the 2 nights that we have to worry about.
Yeah, if we've already made our reservation, I didn't know what kind of code to put in, so I just made a reservation directly through Marriott. Do we need to move that reservation into the block?
She hasn't given me a code. She just gave me a access, which was the Marriott reservation. But it should be able to check in, let them know you're with us.
Okay, and what's the room rate for the convention?
109.
109.
But they have big taxes.
Yeah.
We do have some mini suites, I think, that are available as well, so.
I'm going to ask a question about the convention that I don't know. Does the hosting association set the registration fee, or is that something that IGRA does, or?
We've already said.
Oh, it's already been set. Okay.
It was set at convention, wasn't it?
Yeah, we set it at
The board said so.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was set at the last one, wasn't it?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure.
Michael,
What was it
there's
set
no
at?
attachment on the email we sent.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on Rogers.
Go ahead, Brian.
Okay.
Somebody needs to update Frank with the information because the current website is showing the Holiday Inn Conference Center in Little Rock, Arkansas as the host hotel.
Okay.
Okay.
Yippee.
Frank, I'll get you the hotel information.
I haven't received any
Yeah.
information
Okay.
at this point.
Kevin, you need to get with Michael and make sure y'all,
Yeah, I got
the fee and all that.
Yeah, we got that contract email copy.
I just-
Yeah.
just send that information. Okay.
Oh, wait a minute, I lied, the room rate's 104. We discussed so many room rates. We went from 119 down to 99 and back up to 104.
Let's take a 10-minute break, and that way we'll give Michael time to get that, where Roger can.
Liz, I did a response to the board, so it didn't pull the text.
Pictures from Dillon Reservoir.
Okay, we're gonna call the meeting back to order.
Dillon Reservoir.
I'm gonna go to Jeffrey. Neal wants to talk a little bit about, give a little brief on university, and then we'll go to Roger.
So, since the beginning of the year, we've gone a little underground at the university. We are trying to come into the new age of technology. And so one of the big concerns that was brought up in our prior meetings has been that we're holding an event every year, and we're really stuck by logistics to offer first level classes for all those people coming in. It's new to them. They want to learn about rodeo. They want to learn about IGRA. They want to learn about how to do the beginner level stuff. But how do you then help the people who've been around for years and years and years? They've already been through all this, and they want something else that keeps them moving along. So one of the things that that John and I talked about not these last couple of months, but prior to the end of last year, was how do we go to maybe an online format for some of those beginner level classes, get people trained up, get people using the information that they need and make it more available. So in the last few months, I have been working with two associates that work at my company in a training and development role, and they have a outside company that they do training and development and web education. And they are working with me on several of the free sites that provide, YouTube level training. They can do little snippet classes, little snippet discussions, etc. It can manage educational content. It makes it a little bit more formal, not just a quick watch this how-to video and then go out and do it any way you want, but taking the key pieces of information and trying to put some kind of gradability to it so that it is retained, so that it's something that can be kept up. And there's a couple of concerns and issues that we're walking through, and that is we don't want the information to get stale. It's not like you can put a video together and then that is the video it goes. As you guys know, once a year we change all of our rules. And so we have to constantly be looking at any content that we would create and make sure that it's fresh, make sure that it's current, make sure that it's relevant. So it's a much bigger job than one would think you could just flip this on and turn it on. Yes, you can do all that, but how do you maintain it? How do you keep the integrity of it? So one of the things that I am happy to say is that between now and
our next meeting at the end of the summer, all of the board members are going to be receiving a link from me, and it's going to be the first of a class. And you're gonna get to go through it yourselves. And when we come back to the next board meeting, I need the feedback to figure out what you thought, what did you like, what did you not like, did it fit your needs? We could talk about this in between, back and forth through email, etc. But the idea is that we are gonna try and do something that allows us to meet our membership much more than just once a year at a training session. Now, that said, we are literally 8 months out from the next date that potentially would be the next university, and we have not selected a location, we have not selected a date, we have not selected that we're even going to have a meeting. So we need to ask, is it a need that we have a first meeting of the year for a university event where people can come together, do the board meeting, and have some events, or should we consider again another year? I don't want to hurt the university concept. I don't want to take it away from the membership, but I think we need to restructure and re-cement the foundation to get ourselves to where, when we do come together, it's for a purpose and it's for the coming together of those that have been learning during the course of the year. So I think as the committee chair, I would say that I would be okay with the board not choosing to have a university in January of 2019, but that we go ahead and we consider scheduling a January of 2020 and have an online event, but we will be updating and releasing with board approval any online facility that we have once we've gone through the motions of creating it and seeing how it's going to work and presenting that to you as a board. So my first part is a question to you. Are you okay with not having a university in 6 months? Because if not, we're scrambling to make sure that we can get one set up pretty fast. And B, do you have any other feedback for me on where we're headed today?
Amy?
Do you happen to know offhand how many fee-paying registered participants there were at the most recent past university?
The most recent past university that we had, we were at the lowest student count that we had ever had, and it was less than 20. The highest that we've ever had was 169.
So if I understand you correctly, you are recommending that we take another off year to get things redesigned or recrafted. Is that correct?
I am of that mindset unless someone changes my mind.
I would say I would agree too, and then don't forget that we also said, like we do these board meetings and stuff like that, and we were saying that, people already have travel involved, so that we don't have these added expenses or whatever. You might just think about coordinating some of these classes with the board meetings, with these other events that we have or whatever. I think, Liz, did you hear it?
I think. I guess one of my questions would be, which I don't know for sure, but is it in our bylaws or anywhere stipulated that we have to have university in when, where, and how? Because if that's the case, would we have to wait and make this decision at convention, or can it be made?
I can actually answer that. It is stipulated as one of the IGRA controlled events, and it is stipulated that it cannot be within the 17 days of first rodeo, or any rodeo, I believe it states, and convention and, what's our other event? Finals, thank you. So it is in the same realm as. Now, one of the things that we did way back in the day, Arizona had the January rodeo every year, and we petitioned really hard for them to move to the February date for the February holiday, so that university would be the first thing of the year. So you have convention as finals as the last rodeo of the year, convention as the last meeting of the year, university as the first meeting of the next year, to put all the IGRA events together and to allow us to kick off. And if there were major changes that needed to be
educate the contestant public, that would give us a venue to be able to do that prior to the first rodeo, whereas in old formats, everything was happening, the university was in June, the university was in March, it was always after somebody was already competing, and it kind of messed things up. So I understand the logic of where we came from in history. It does not mean that university has to be locked into the winter months. It just made a good reason for everybody to be able to travel together and not have a rodeo attached. But I also agree that there could be some offerings if we can procure space and keep the logistics low, to being able to offer certain types of educational offerings during a rodeo weekend.
I think I answered my question.
One of the things that we did discuss with the university is that it's the first event that the new royalty team actually attend every year, and that's where they get together as a team, plan their events, plan their years. And because we cancelled the university in Oklahoma this year, the royalty team themselves then decided to go ahead, and they went to Vegas, being a better, easier place to go to, and they had their own informal university with classes and made it much more of a practical thing. How many were in attendance then, do you know?
I know that,
because there was a law.
I know that they meant that I was traveling out of Las Vegas that
I'm
week,
sorry,
so I wasn't actually involved in that, but yeah, it was their own little retreat, and they actually did a play date event and some stuff. What I will tell you is that we do have in the original curriculum the community service track was a royalty training and preparation track. And that particular track was written by, back then, Andrew Goodman, and it was designed to give the royalty interaction for learning how to be socialized, learning how to step into another person's community and do the right thing, learning how to reach out and teach other members of the association. So there is a track that can be carved out, and we could do something very specific to the royalty program and allow the vice president and whoever is working with royalty, we could do their own mini retreat and give them what they needed without having to use a weekend, but it's also a reason for the royalty to have been there and be a part of the overall association, which was the purpose of it.
So, okay, there's a huge gap between 169 and 20, and if the direction that university is going is more royalty centric, then maybe they should have their own event. But I'm wondering if, given our current calendar, there would need to be changes, but would attendance be better if it was attached, if university was attached as a separate day to convention?
That's a very good question, and I don't know that that's a thought mind that I went down yet so far, but anything is open. Anything is open. The question is, knowing that people scramble in that month to be able to book time off to come to convention. There's a lot of people that come in not for the Friday meetings. There's a lot of people that come in that leave during the session on Sunday. Are they going to be able to take an extra day and come in a day early to be a part of an educational event? We would have to make sure that we could cover that, and then again, to the point, we need to prepare to be a part of the block somehow. That would affect the convention block, because it could increase a day and it could increase the attendance, which would be a bonus. So I don't see a negative to that at all, but certainly we could look at it. Yes. We also, just so that you're aware, in case it comes up, one of the things that we had talked about was taking the university on the road, more than just being in a different city every month. That's what I was or every year, is holding a segment of university in each of the 4 divisions and moving it through maybe quarterly, and being able to do some curriculum, and the curriculum will be the same for that year, but holding it 4 times so that people could get to it in a more logistical place. So I saw several hands, I apologize. So,
but I was going to say what you said. I think that's what Candy was touching on too, was maybe you divide it up and put it in some different rodeos, some of your more struggling rodeos, to maybe try to pull some people in that would also stay there that weekend at their rodeo, or a new rodeo, not necessarily a struggling rodeo, but a new rodeo or something like that to help them that are not having a board meeting. That's a possibility. But I guess the question really is what you want to know is whether to go ahead and move it out for a year, right?
First of all, I wanted to make sure that I had some time at this meeting, and I apologize, I didn't have a formal report to give to Mr. Secretary, because we really just aren't in a place where I could put certain details of all this down. It's just in the design phases, and believe me, it's a lot. But yes, I'm coming to you because I want you to know we are working on stuff. We are trying something new, and that is going to be that we are going to release some form of online educational track or unit, and it's going to take care of the basic stuff. And then we're still going to need to figure out where do we need to test and train, where we would have to hold somebody to a standard of what they've learned in this process. You know, where do we have to have tests? Where can we say, okay, we gave you information, what are you going to use with it? And then we need to find out what, again, is important to the higher level, longer term members of the association, so that we still meet your needs. Just because you've gotten into the graduate level of rodeo doesn't mean that there isn't something new that we can provide for you and keep you fresh and connected to the group.
Okay, Patrick was next.
Yeah, and I'm going to tag on to what he has said. A big reason why the attendance has gone down was in the beginning, the first few years, those people attended and they continued to work up. Now we're at a point where I don't mean to say this badly, but older people
more mature
are, at a point they're stalemated, so they don't come. Primarily, the new ones were last year. The 20 new ones were new members. Because they had reached the others had reached their point and didn't go.
Thank you. Jeffrey, first off, thank you for putting so much thought into this and everything. And personally, I think university does have a place. And moving into the direction that you're going, I personally think is the right direction. And for the new people who are coming on, which we want to encourage, Patrick is correct. Much of us have aged a bit into our comfort levels. It would be exciting for someone like myself, for instance, who has done almost everything imaginable in the IGRA world. It would be exciting to see something different that I can achieve, that I can reach for. I like that.
Very good. And just let me remind all of you, you don't look a day older than yesterday. It's totally good. All of us are young.
Here's your vision.
Yes. Michael.
I here talking about convention. In the way current convention's currently organized, we have our board meeting on Thursday, committee meetings on Friday, and then convention Saturday and Sunday. So if you were to do university at convention, so to speak, it sounds like the trustees wouldn't be able to participate because they've got the board meeting to do. And I don't know if we can go tack on a 5th day before convention.
I absolutely agree with that, and that was one of the things. Patrick will tell you from years ago. I was always a little discouraged because the board meeting is such a largely attended meeting. This is a healthy body of people to have not able to join other aspects of growth in the organization. So if we were asked to do something connected to convention, for example,
we would have to sit down and literally plot out how much is too much. It would have to be something where it would be a time slot that everybody could attend, and it would have to hit the needs of everybody in one group, kind of like the Sunday sessions and seminars that we've been doing in the last couple of models of the university, where it's the chancellor presents type of thing. I think, and what I will tell you is, when we get all of this buttoned up, the university meeting is where I'm going to make sure that we have promotional materials with the website on it for the links that you go here to sign up for university, to attend these things. It's going to track your involvement online. It's going to tell me who's taken the classes, who took them multiple times. If there's a built-in test, it's going to score the test. If they take the test a second time, it'll take the better of the two scores, or will it tell me that there's something there that we need to look at? The softwares that I'm currently reviewing, at least 3, there's dozens out there, is built to track these educational components to make sure that they are worthwhile. I don't want people to feel that just because they watched a 5-second video that they know how to be a bartender. I don't want them to, I want them to understand there's a lot more depth to what we do, and I don't want to hold them back from wanting to do it either. I want to entice them to be a part of this. Tommy?
Just one final thing on that to remember, the importance of education within our organization. When we found Caleb Insurance Company, and one of the huge reasons which we received such a huge discounted liability rate was because we're rated partially as an educational organization, which covers safety and organizational education. So it is important. University has benefited in more ways than most realize.
And I just want to touch on when I was talking a while ago, and I think everybody in this room would agree that whenever university was done, and like you did, like the rodeo directors or stuff like that, if you did that at a rodeo, I'm a hands-on person. You know, there's people that sit in the room, there's people that are like hands-on. I don't think if it was pre-scheduled and set up, and that's the reason I was saying about the in-the-field type training, if you like chose Denver and you said, you know, you had 6 students or whatever, that's giving you 6 people to help out and to learn or whatever.
Who want to be a rodeo director.
Who want to be a rodeo director, which really benefits IGRA. Because there are a lot of times, that's what these people are saying, like, well, I really need to learn to do it. You know what I mean? Yes, the classroom's fine or whatever, but when you really do like the hands-on and you use and so many people are, you know, when we're budgeting for these meetings and going and stuff like that, and we have finals, then we had, convention, then we had, university, and then we go right into Phoenix or whatever. It's just, I think that if we tag on to some of these, rodeos and use some of those things, it'll really help you out.
That's a great idea. How many arena directors may attend a rodeo school on Friday?
Yeah.
I mean, you might be very surprised.
And the good news is that is part of what I'd like to present to you when we get to the August meeting, is that you trump the card, but we would like to actually see us be at rodeo schools. So if it's a rodeo school and you're learning to play in the dirt, then we can have both an outside of the arena and an inside of the arena training at those times. And if we are able to, like we do with our rodeos, schedule them a year in advance, if we know where the rodeo schools are going to be, maybe the university organization can come in and actually assist with making some of that happen. We're not going to do the stock stuff, but we certainly could be doing that. We certainly could be helping the certified officials programs by making sure that we can help administer what they're trying to teach and train. We can certainly help with the monitoring and the tracking of achievement in the process. So this is becoming more than just a fun time weekend, come together, learn a whole lot of stuff about rodeo, what can we throw into a classroom. This is becoming the actual understanding and longevity of how do we educate people about the Western lifestyle, because we haven't even gotten into that piece, How do we bring back the education of dance? How do we bring back the education of becoming a rodeo producer? How do we bring back the education of becoming a rodeo contestant? How do we bring back and put in the new rules for safety in rodeo? There are unbelievable directions that this can go, and in today's technology, my extreme desire and focus is get as much of this baseline to where it can grow. And once it starts growing, it's going to grow ginormously. And the question is that how does that become either a helpful or a hurtful arm of the association? So with that, I ask for you all to please let me know what you feel about a January event in 2019 versus pushing to 2020.
I'll make a motion, we postpone for 2019.
Second.
There you go.
Any further discussion?
Can we do that, as long as we're not, right?
We've already done it.
Oh.
Yeah, well, I mean, but it can still be, a motion can still be out of order. And if it's considered out of order, then it's not a good motion. Because, again, I'm sorry, the bylaws.
And we made the same discussion for this, the same motion for this year, and it was fine.
Yeah.
Exactly. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay.
Okay, and we will begin to design, I have not started working on the university webpage, but very shortly that's going to be on the list of things to do, and we're going to start getting that up to date, promoting the coming things, and we will post this information and let all the associations know, so thank you for your support.
Right?
Somebody a while ago mentioned that university was listed on a website in the wrong city. Whoever that was, can you come see me in a minute or two?
The hotel on the calendar lists the Little Rock Hotel versus the Marriott in Salt Lake City.
I'd still like to see where you're talking about, because
Okay.
I don't have any of that information showing.
Okay. All right. I believe we have Roger's report distributed now.
Okay.
Rebooting solved permanent problem.
Roger, you ready?
Okay, since you're just now getting the report and not having time to read it, I'll go ahead and read it. And then as I finish each section, we'll just go ahead and deal with that section rather than going to the very end. All of the archives have been moved from Colorado to Las Vegas storage, and I have been going through many of the boxes. I'm discussing permanent home for the IGRA archive materials. In 2009, IGRA donated rodeo programs and other items that were not cataloged to the Autry National Center of the American West, Autry Museum, which is located in Griffith Park in the Los Angeles area. Frank Carroll contacted them at a later date to find out what items they had, and Frank did receive a list of the rodeo programs but no other information on the other items. The IGRA archives do not have one of the rodeo programs. Frank now believes it's
6.
More than that, 6. So there's 6 that are not in the archives and therefore are not on the online information. He asked to get if he could scan that program and was told no, even though there was printing, scanning equipment in the room where they were at. The main reason that IGRA donated items was because the Autry had recently put the 2 shirts from the movie Brokeback Mountain on display, and their staff told IGRA they were interested in adding a section on gay rodeo to their museum. As far as we know at this time, the IGRA donation is still located in their storage. This is why the committee has been looking for other locations to house the remaining archives. On February 23rd, a couple of weeks after the Phoenix meeting, Brian Rogers and I visited the One National Gay and Lesbian Archives located on the University of Southern California campus. In addition to the building on campus, the archives has a building in West Hollywood where they rotate exhibits every month or so. Brian and I asked numerous questions to learn more about this organization, and we both feel strongly that this will be a great location for the majority of IGRA materials. One is actually a part of USC, and the staff is paid by USC. They get funding every year as part of the USC program, but they are also allowed to seek additional funding through donations and grants. One has the largest collection of gay and lesbian archives in the world and is very accessible to individuals wanting to research gay and lesbian topics. They will happily accept up to 2 copies each of our rodeo programs and posters, as well as other rodeo-related magazines and articles, and they are also able to accept donations of items such as shirts, jackets, hats, rodeo pins, buckles, etc. 2 years ago, the Smithsonian expressed interest in obtaining a few items for display in Washington, D.C. The committee will be looking for items that may be suitable for that location at a future time under a different political climate. Also, the Gay and Lesbian Rodeo Heritage Foundation may be interested in eventually obtaining some of the IGRA archives, which they would hope to be able to place on display. They will need additional time to determine if their dream can become reality, and the committee wants to give them some time before all of the IGRA archive material is donated to other locations. If items are eventually donated to GLRHF, the committee would like to have it written into the agreement that items will be transferred to one if the GLRHF project later closes. So in relation to permanent location for the IGRA cards, the committee recommends one National Gay and Lesbian Archives at the USC campus to be the primary location for our donated archival materials. Anyone have any discussion on that?
Fantastic.
Want to vote on that item while we're here?
Sure.
All in favor of,
Second.
should I make them, does the committee make the
Yeah,
motion?
hang on. You can make a motion and Jeffrey can second.
Okay. The committee recommends that one National Gay and Lesbian Archives is the primary location for archive material.
Any further? Oh, go ahead.
Just I have a question, make sure, are we voting on that, we're just naming that as the location that we will make future donations to, or we are actually sending something, or
We're just making the motion that that will be the location. We'll vote on items as we go down farther.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Abstentions? Motion passes.
Okay, getting into rodeo programs. The rodeo programs, including the original Reno National Gay Rodeo, IGRA sanctioned rodeos, and other non-IGRA rodeos, have been sorted into 4 sets. No set is complete, and each set has fewer programs than the previous set. The committee recommends that for now, the first and third sets remain with IGRA for possible future donation to the, let's say, Rodeo Heritage Foundation. The committee recommends that the second and fourth sets be donated to one. If the board approves, we hope that some representatives of IGRA will be able to be in Los Angeles when the first of IGRA's donations are turned over to one. This will be a great media opportunity, and the staff of one will work with us for a time that is convenient. Ryan Rogers and I both plan to be in attendance. The committee has a full listing of all programs in each set, so that as more programs are received by IGRA, we will be able to sort them out and add to previously donated materials. Now, after the 4 sets of programs were assembled, there are still a number of extra programs that were not part of the previous donation to the Autry. As a bargaining chip, the committee would like to offer the Autry 1 copy from each of these extra rodeo programs. They get the programs if IGRA is allowed to scan the missing rodeo programs and look at all of the other donated items so we can catalog items in their possession. So the committee recommends that the second and fourth sets of rodeo programs be donated to one.
Motion to approve committee recommendation.
Second.
Chuck and Jeffrey. Any discussion? G?
I've not been involved in the archives purposely because I don't get it as well as most, but I'm concerned that we have the situation that we have with the Audrey or whatever it is. And in fact, that they have stuff that we donated to them that they won't even let us scan or let us categorize, and we're having to come bargaining chips. So my concern is that will this donation come with some sort of an agreement that if they don't use it as intended, that it be returned to us? Or are they just gone forever and under the control of that?
Once you make a donation to an organization, it will be theirs. But while Brian and I were
Right,
there,
I understand that, but that's not what I asked. I mean, could we have that kind of an agreement with them that?
I will say no.
Okay, that was the question, because the fact is, you even said in your report, we gave that stuff when they put the shirts on display because they expressed an interest of displaying it, and it's still in storage. You know, so that's obviously not what we wanted.
Let me give you a little more answer.
Okay.
When Brian and I were there, there were a couple of researchers there at the tables. And in talking with the staff there, they said that they got compliments, numerous compliments from people coming in to do research, because they have things listed on internet, not specific to, you know, everything. They listing of all their books and information that's available for researchers. Researchers can go to that site ahead of time, prepare a list of the things they want, send it in and say, I'm going to be at your location on Wednesday. When they get there, the staff has all of those things in a basket, they wheel it out, and that person can sit there and work on it as long as they want. All of the researchers say wherever else they go in, they ask for a book, they get one book at a time, they finish that one, they have to take it back to the staff, then wait for the next book to come out. So it speeds up their research time incredibly. And they also said, I believe this, I was talking with them, that we can take items out on loan. They do have, people are allowed to go in and scan items. We've got scanners there, so all of the researchers can scan items. So it's available in that way. But and they will, the second location they have in West Hollywood, there's a display on there right now regarding AIDS prevention, posters and everything for 30 years of AIDS prevention is on display right now for 3 months. So at some point in time, they say they would plan on putting in some kind of a rodeo display, which may be once every 3 years, once every 5 years, who knows what it might be. But the option is there.
Okay, but I'd like to readdress what my statement that sounds perfect. That sounds exactly what we would want to happen with our archives. My concern is that we don't get into another situation where, what if this one who sounds like, and they're telling us they're going to do exactly what we want and make that information available, what if they decide not to list our stuff on their website where the researchers even know it's there? Or if they decide, so if it's not used, if we have no recourse to ever get that back or even have access to it, if they don't use it in the intention that we want to, because it sounds like that's what we're in with the first donation to Audrey Museum.
I'll let Frank go ahead before I go any further on my answers.
Because I think I can solve both your problems right straight off. One of the major issues with donation, such as what happened at the Autry, is there was not a clause included in the agreement that gives us perpetual access to material. As organizations change, you get different management in, their concepts of what they do on a daily basis changes, which is what has happened to the Autry. Because when we first donated, they were all open and everything. Something has changed there. What we need to do is to make sure that in our contract of donation, we include perpetual access by IGRA to materials. It's basically just one extra paragraph that you have to include there. Takes care of both problems.
That's exactly what I asked and suggested. And you said we can't do that.
I can request it, but I'm not sure that it will happen.
Okay.
No, that's something that we put in our statement when they sign it.
And I'm not sure that any organization that was donated to will allow that statement.
You can put anything in the contract, doesn't mean they're gonna sign it.
Patrick.
As the person that did take our stuff to the archives with Comedy Channel, and I signed off on it, knowing what I do now, I'm very disturbed with what
they did or have done, and taking advantage of this stuff that we felt was very valuable. So I believe it was a little bit we did it quickly, and I think given more time, I think it really needs to be thought out. But I agree with Gene. I think we need a contract that states that stuff, because Autry promised us, they promised us, not in writing, but they promised us that this stuff would be available. And now you can go to their library and request stuff. It's got to stay there, but you can't copy or scan anything.
Which is certificate.
Yeah, it's very strict.
He's talking the Autry.
If you know it's there, that's my point. If you know it's there, but if it's in storage and they don't have it categorized, if people don't even know it's there anymore. That's all I'm saying, is I totally get what you're saying. They won't, if they don't sign it, they won't sign it, but.
One of the reasons that Brian and I like this location, and it's blatant sexuality, let's say. This is a gay and lesbian archives. I feel that our stuff is going to be made available for research. Where we give things to the Autry, or we give things to a library in Wyoming, or we give something to someplace else, political things, climates change. Just like right now, we're no longer invited to the Smithsonian, but in 3 years we may be invited back to the Smithsonian. And as the person in charge changes, their attitudes regarding our information availability may change. And that's why we feel the Gay and Lesbian Center is a good location. We can request for the paragraph that Frank suggested we put in there. Because it's a research place, what he just stated, I don't think will be a problem, because he's asking for accessibility to the information. That's different than loaning it out of the building. I don't know if they would loan it out of the building. It seems to me we talked about that, and there was discussion about, yes, things might be able to go out, but I can't honestly verify that in my memory right now. Frank?
The problem with the Autry is we're being denied access to materials. I've been trying for several years now just to get a response from them, and they're refusing to respond to me. That clause that I talked about is a very standard clause in many, many donations to museums and everything. In fact, the Smithsonian includes that as part of their thing. So it is very common. It doesn't mean that we can go in and take something out. It just means that we have access to it. So if their management changes and their attitude changes, they can't block us from getting to it, which is what the Autry is for.
Frank, just a question for both of you, really.
Go ahead, Tommy.
Yeah.
Oh, he called on me, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Yeah. I've got a
Oh,
list,
you roll.
I've got a
Oh,
list
sorry.
running, it's okay. Who called on?
I
Okay, go ahead. All right.
I don't have to speak.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
We're bypassing people that have had their hand up for a while.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay, my question is, because a lot of families do this with artifacts that are family inherited, they do a permanent loan. Is that an option? Because that way you still retain ownership, which basically means control if you don't like the way it's being done.
I don't have a pen that works. I've got 3 pens over here.
That was one thing with the Autry, was once we signed up, it was their property, and we could no longer actually take it back.
Yeah. And this kind of solves that if the institution allows it.
Okay, I think Liz was next.
Just to say that exactly the same thing, or why are we giving things, why can't we just put them on loan? Lots and lots of other associations have traveling items that go from one place to the next. It's not a loan, it's not even around a loan, it's a loan, it belongs to the association, but you're welcome to present, and the loan can be as long as you want it to. It can be ad infinitum, or it can be for 2 months.
Well, we we've already voted and approved that this center is gonna be the place, so are you gonna go back and do we need to go back and reverse what we discussed already?
No, that's why I asked the question the way I did.
Oh, wait a minute, we didn't vote on it.
We haven't voted.
We voted on it being the place in the future that we would donate to, but we haven't voted on what we're going to donate or how it's going to be donated.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so Tommy, let's finish with Tommy and Michael.
I've been asked and answered.
Okay.
Do we need to change the word from donate to permanent loan?
Indefinite loan is how you want to word that.
Okay, indefinite loan.
Yes.
Versus donate.
you would need, well, that, this second motion might need to contain that, if that's how you want to present it for a vote. It could be presented just the way the committee has it.
So I would do a friendly amendment to say indefinitely loan versus donate.
That's when it gets tricky.
I think that Frank's proposal for permanent access is much easier to get. And honestly, once you donate something to an organization, it's really considered theirs.
Right.
But if we can get permanent access to it,
okay,
I think would be good. I can ask about the indefinite loan, but I think we're going to get a negative on that. And then in regards to everything that we're going to be discussing from here on, the donation would only happen. We've said that this one will be the location. I've got some action items down here saying specific items that I'd like to donate to one, but all of these actions will be subject to the fact of whether we can get that permanent access written into our agreement. Does that sound good?
Roger, I think anything.
Roger, I have a question for you on the last paragraph of that you have bolded out, because it sounds like we're trying to get something from the OTRI that we only have one of. Is that correct?
We don't have any. We don't have a copy of it. All we want to get is a scan so that can be put with that grid of rodeo programs on the Gay Rodeo History website.
And these are just rodeo programs we're
Rodeo
discussing.
programs.
And we have multiple copies of
We have
these.
multiple copies.
So if we're giving a set.
The only thing the OTRI would be getting out of this bargaining chip is stuff we've already got 4 of.
Okay.
2 for one, and 2 for potential donation to the Rodeo Heritage Foundation.
So we don't need to worry what the OTRI does with them, because we already have our copies.
Correct.
And one other option open to us is if we can find our members who have copies of those 6 programs.
What are the 6? Can you?
I will be.
Let me explain it. Okay. If you look at this chart, the red X's are the ones that we're missing. The lowercase X's are the ones that the OTRI has at least one copy and we don't have one. It's hard to see on the screen, so you go look at it on a computer.
Well, that is something that the Archives Committee will be doing in the near future. Is preparing a list to go to all of the member associations, to forward to all of their current and previous members. We're going to be making a push this year to get some of this missing stuff. So that is on our agenda.
So these donations, again, are only rodeo programs, and they're 1 or 2 of 4 sets that we currently have in our possession.
Correct.
So it's really not going to affect. By donating this, it doesn't really affect we have a copy or not. We still have a copy.
Hang on,
Right.
Tim, it's Jack's turn.
So, just so I understand, correct, Roger. So, with the OTRI, if they have this and we want it, and I understand and appreciate all, it sounds like you've been very diligent, a lot of work on this. So you said a researcher can go in and request the data, right?
At the OTRI, they've been saying no.
Okay, so it's strictly for their internal use, because I thought, why can't one of us just say we're researching, we want it, and then we go in and get, I'm just trying to.
Frank's the one that has tried.
To begin with, they were saying we would have access when we first gave it to them. And then as the years went on, it got to the point where they were telling me that, no, you can't do that, it belongs to us, it's copyright stuff, and then they just simply kept stopping responding. They were giving us excuses.
So don't we have, I mean.
Do we have some kind of contract, do we need a lawyer?
The only contract, our contract simply says this stuff now belongs to the archery. And they can do whatever they want to.
So, so I can finish my point or my question, I guess. So, if I'm understanding correctly, then, if it belongs to them and we can't, we are pretty influential, we're gonna have a lot of members places. Don't we know someone that can put some pressure on them to get it?
Well, you're getting smart. I didn't put it in the report. There is a possible contact living here in Palm Springs.
Okay.
It says they are neighbors with members of the Autry family. So that will be my next step. I'm going to try this first. If this doesn't work,
then
we're going to go to the family.
Or we could just send Michael Kraut over there, he lives in the neighborhood.
Yeah, that's where I was getting at.
So yeah, I have another step to take if this doesn't work.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate all your effort. Yes.
Who else wanted, any other discussion? Go ahead.
I'm just trying to, this sounds quite simple to me, that what your intent here to do is to get some access to things that we need, that we don't have, that we gave them, that they won't give us, that they won't allow us to get, and won't allow anybody else in the world to get. But in order for us to get it, we're gonna offer them some programs that we have multiple copies of. And in order to do that, we're gonna use that as a bargaining chip to get the information that we need.
I'm just going to them, yes, and trying to be nice about it. If they're not nice, then I'm going to go to the family.
And I wasn't questioning that paragraph, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Mine was what we're gonna give one, have not given us into that same scenario.
But there's still copies of programs that we already have.
And the way that I worded, yes, they are copies. Only Autry won't get anything that we don't already have. The thing we're talking about right now is the committee recommends that the second and fourth sets, the first set has the most, the second set has the second most, the third set, and so on. So the second and fourth sets of the rodeo programs be donated to one, and all of these donations are subject to whether we can get into the agreement that we will have permanent access or possibly indefinite loan. Okay?
One last thing I'd like to point out. Everything else other than these 6 programs and the ones that nobody seems to have a copy of, we already have it digitally. And that was my primary intent when I started this project, was to get this stuff digitally. Personally,
and as the committee, I'm trying to get everything digital before we donate it, including the bylaws, committee meeting reports, minutes. I'm trying to get everything digital. Any other discussion before voting on that? Donating the second and fourth sets of rodeo programs to one.
Sorry, can I just make one, it's a quick statement. You guys have all put a lot of work and effort in this, and we have a lot of history to preserve. And this is really important, and when we vote, we need to think about the importance of it. Not only about perpetual access and things like that, but this is the reason that the leather archives in Chicago is so important, because when some people don't always approve of gay lifestyle, and especially back in those days, and when certain folks would pass, things were just thrown out. So, this is our heritage, and we're fortunate because most of us accepted now, and the gay lifestyle is accepted. But I mean, this is thousands and tens of thousands of people and millions of hours of history. So this is a really important journey. So I just wanted to, I guess, express that emotion.
Anybody that gets an opportunity, if you're ever in LA and have some time, I suggest you go and visit the archives. Most of it is not available for you to get there, but you might ask for a quick tour if somebody can walk you through back behind some of the doors. It's amazing how much stuff they have. And they have currently got a separate building fund that they're working on to get a bigger building that's even more appropriate for archival materials. Is there a second on the motion? I think there was.
Discussion. Jeff seconded it, that's what I have. Can we repeat the motion, just so I make sure I have it down correctly?
They're all written down in the report that you've got. The committee recommends that the second and fourth sets of rodeo programs be donated to one.
Thank you.
Can I, sorry, what is one? What is this?
One was the name of the very first gay and lesbian newsletter or magazine from the 1950s. The guy that started that magazine started collecting all sorts of materials, and his archives are what was the birth of what is now the One, and it's shortened to just One, all in capital letters. National Gay and Lesbian Archives at the USC is the official title of it now.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions?
Thank you. The next thing is, as a bargaining chip, the committee would like to offer the Autry one copy each from the extra rodeo programs. They get the programs if IGRA is allowed to scan the missing programs and look at the donated items so we can catalog the other items that are in their possession.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Gene, stop.
Any more discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Okay.
I have not had a chance to look at the rodeo posters yet. There's 5 flat boxes of rodeo posters, plus several smaller boxes of programs that are still rolled up. Frank has a listing. I've received a listing of Frank of all of the ones that are already flattened out in these boxes, which are stored under my bed. And the reason I threw this in here now is because as I get the opportunity to look at the posters and separate them out, find out you've got duplicates of whatever, I added this in. It was not in your original report, but it's in the revised report. Posters have not been reviewed by the current committee, but Frank Carroll has created an inventory of the majority of the posters. The committee recommends that, depending on the quantity of each poster, they be held for future donation to Rodeo Heritage Foundation or donated to One. And I just threw this in here quick because that gives the committee a little bit of discretion in being able to sort them out and say, okay, we've got duplicates or whatever, rather than coming back to you in 6 months or whatever. As I get them sorted, I can just go ahead and look at them. Do you need a move? I guess I need a motion on whether we can donate posters.
Move to accept.
Okay. Jeffrey, in a second.
Second.
Okay. Mark Scott. Any discussion on the posters?
This is not in the document that we have.
It was in the revised one that I sent out last night, and I don't think it's been sent through to you yet. We'll make sure that you get a copy of the revised report. The revisions are in blue.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Passes.
Okay, other types of magazines. Roundup magazine. Archives have 2 complete sets and 4 incomplete sets of Roundup magazine. Of the 11 issues were published between spring of '93 and October '96. The committee recommends donating 1 complete set and 1 incomplete set to One.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Was that Mike or Jeff? Or Tim? Oh, Tim.
Any discussion about that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Okay.
Another magazine called First Hand Events, the souvenir issue of Gay Rodeo. Some of you may have seen it. I believe it's got candy and, or no, that's a different one. No, that's a Roundup magazine. This one has Bill Sanders and somebody else on the cover.
Artie Lynch?
No,
a woman from Texas.
Oh,
That narrows it down.
Lisa Freeman?
The old.
Lisa Freeman or who?
Yes,
Lisa?
that's what I think. Anyway, we have 4 copies of that. The committee recommends donating 2 copies to one.
Greg and
Motion to
Bill
approve.
I didn't think it was 2 women, it's 2 guys.
It's Greg and Bill.
It's Greg and
I
Bill.
thought it was Diana Girl also.
Well,
mustaches.
Well, because you wanna have one officially.
Made a motion to approve, need a
Bill
second.
Sanders.
Second, Amy. Any more discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions?
Okay, every year the member associations are required to send IGRA a copy of their incorporation documents and their current bylaws. For many years, IGRA received hard copies of this information. For the past several years, most of the member associations have been sending the required information electronically. These documents are not available on either the IGRA.com or GayRadioHistory.org websites. IGRA does not need to keep these many years of hard copy member association documents. The committee recommends that all these member association, incorporation documents, and bylaws be donated to one.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Question, since that, the bylaws, doesn't that tend to have individuals' names and contact information as like the officer, or the point of contact for the?
I haven't looked through them specifically, but most bylaws do not have officer information because the bylaws are a standard thing that might go.
Okay, I'm
It's your
confusing
corporation
corporation
stuff.
paper, okay.
And
Never
the
mind.
corporation papers may have names on them, but they're already available to the public.
Okay.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstention? Okay.
Newsletters. The archives includes quite a few member association newsletters. Most of these have already been scanned and are available for viewing at the GayRodeoHistory.org site. The committee recommends that as newsletters are scanned and available on the website, the hard copies be donated to one.
Motion to
Now,
approve.
in one case, that's the GSGRA newsletters. We have probably about 3/4 of them online, and we probably have about 60% of them as a second copy, which I'm holding for the Rodeo Heritage Foundation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay.
Have a motion in a second.
Any
Any other discussion?
Any more discussion on the newsletters? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstention?
Okay, IGRA bylaws, standing rules, and sanctioned rodeo rules. As far as I have been able to determine, only the current bylaws and standing rules are available online. If previous editions are online, the committee believes they should be accessible to the public. So this is a question I have for Michael. Does Secretarial have any of that electronic stuff saved?
I'll have to find out.
Yeah, I'm just throwing that to you. If it is saved, I think it should be passed on to Frank so that it can be posted and available so that we can have our
I'm sure we
bylaws.
would have it as part of like convention minutes and your
The bylaws are not part of the minutes.
So when we voted on changes to those bylaws,
Yes.
it was piecemeal.
What I'm finding, there's some of the convention reports are currently available from about 2006 to about 2013 is available online right now. But when you look through there, the minutes of the previous year's conventions are not there. And the minutes that I have looked at don't reflect the approvals on voting on the rules, on the bylaws.
Yeah.
None of them. The committee reports are there, but not what happened to those reports.
How we acted on the recommendations on the floor.
So that's a difficulty with that. So we want to try and get the bylaws. At one point, 3 weeks ago, I was ready to just say, let's get rid of all the bylaws, and then Patrick and Candy were looking for something, and I found it in the bylaws from 1998.
Okay.
So we're going to try and get all of these scanned and available online, the bylaws and convention minutes. But once they're, the motion here is regarding the bylaws and standing rules and rodeo rules. Actually, let's see here, I got two proposals, I believe. Committee recommends that all hard copy member association, oh no, that one we did vote on. Committee recommends that that one we voted on. Sanctioned rodeo rules are available online, and the committee recommends that one complete set of sanctioned rodeo rules be donated to one.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Patrick, did you have any discussion?
Well, just to comment on that paper, the bylaws in hard copies. A lot of that was scanned, David Hill and Larry Lindstrom were doing. It is my understanding that Larry still has all that stuff, and we need to put a lot of pressure on him in order to get that stuff, because once it was scanned, it was all shredded.
Okay. I'll work on that.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Abstentions?
That was on the sanctioned rodeo rules. I don't have this one listed, but I'd like to include the bylaws and standing rules. As hard copies are scanned, I'd like to donate our hard copies of the bylaws and sanctioned rodeo rules to one.
Motion to approve.
Second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Okay. IGRA convention reports and minutes. I have located many of these reports and minutes in the archives. Not all of them yet. I haven't gone through all the boxes. I plan to scan them as I am able to find time. The following convention reports are available on IGRA.com website, 2006 through 13 and 2016 and 17. None of the other IGRA convention minutes are available online. The committee recommends that as the convention reports and minutes are made available online, the hard copies be donated to one.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We'd still like to point out that we are still missing 14 and 15.
We're missing everything from 1985.
I'm not that worried about that.
I'm fine with it.
Well, and that,
If you gotta go back that far.
that's what.
Here's the 1985.
Thank you. That stuff was available and was scanned.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Abstentions? Okay.
Last item, at February 16th Board of Directors meeting, you approved a budget of $750 for the remainder of 2018. That budget was based on a specific storage location, and when I went to rent the unit, it was no longer available. And then I said, I do not have new budget numbers available in time for the submission of this report, what will happen at the meeting. Now, I added on in the revised report, the storage unit company has been sold to another company, and they are somewhat disorganized at the moment. I've not been able to get an answer on what the additional cost will be to get through to the next IGRA convention. They also seem to not be performing in terms of having the building cooled, and when I return to Las Vegas, I may determine the need to move to another facility. I hope the board understands I will be trying to get the best deal I can for IGRA, but some additional funding is required. The committee requests another $450, which takes the total budget for the year to $1,200.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Question for David on how that affects our budget. It needs to go through the budget committee first, technically, but we can accept it, and I'll have to adjust it that we approve. So it'll be revision two.
Is it an easy revision? Because we did have to struggle.
So what would that put our anticipated gross number for the year, either positive or negative?
It'd be zero.
Excuse me?
Well, technically it'd be positive or negative, 450. But
And what is the, yeah,
I will adjust something else to make it zero.
So what is the final number right now, do you know?
Gross income?
Yeah. Could be negative or positive.
Gross income is 213,905. Gross expense is 213,905.
Okay.
Zero problem.
All right.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
Thank you, Roger.
All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions?
So,
Thank you, board.
Outstanding.
Good job, Roger.
Budget committee.
Last time I had some models for you to look at from the Reno Day Rodeo. This is a program from the 1983, the world's toughest rodeo. It was a PRCA rodeo in Madison Square Gardens in October of 1983. The Gay Men's Health Crisis Center, which originated out of the AIDS crisis, tied in with them and was able to get Saturday night as a fundraiser for the Gay Men's Health Crisis Center. Colorado heard about it somehow. This was 83, October of 83. Lee Kittleson, who is in our Hall of Fame, was in Colorado at that time. He took his horse out to New York City. They had a parade before the rodeo. He was in the parade representing gay rodeo. The equestrian team from Colorado was planning to go, but they didn't have enough stabling facilities for them at the Madison Square Garden, so they backed out. So Lee Kittleson was our only representation. There's nothing inside the program but stories by the president of the organization, fundraising director, etc. There's nothing else rodeo related in the magazine itself. Except there's just advertising that was sold for fundraising. Except on this page, which was a letter from the director of major fundraising events, he says, I'd like to thank some people that made this possible. And the very first ones on the list is Lee Kittleson and the Colorado Gay Rodeo. This is the original in Articles of Incorporation. This is not what went to the state. This was just signed by the notary. I think that before it went to the state, they'd have to clean it up because once they got it signed, it's now has had some pencil corrections to it. It says to perform charitable duties for the United States of America through fundraisers. They scratched out for the United States of America and wrote internationally. At first it said it's a nonprofit organization, and then they added international organization. And throughout that, they scratched out the United States of America and put international instead. And I was talking to John King last night about that, and he said that originally they were planning to be a national rodeo organization, but that in discussions they didn't want to offend the National Reno Gay Rodeo Association, so they became an international organization. And at this point in time, Reno was still happening. They were expecting them to have a rodeo the following year. This was January of '85. They were expecting a rodeo in August of '85, but Reno canceled out that last rodeo and they dissolved after that. But they were planning to run National Reno Gay Rodeo, and it was possibly the finals rodeo for international. And then this says on the front is the International Gay Rodeo Convention 1985. Which was actually in September, but this is actually an organizing meeting. It's labeled convention, but it was an organizing meeting held in January 25th, 26th, and 27th. This was their original agenda with a few notes in here as to things they discussed.
Cool.
That was all the by rules and standing.
Well, that's it. And rodeo rules.
At this time, Brian has a special award he wants to.
Yeah, thank you for indulging me for a moment. I'm here right now representing the Gay and Lesbian Rodeo Heritage Foundation, which is a nonprofit that looks at the gay rodeo culture across the United States and Canada. And at last year at IGRA convention, we had our cocktail party, and we had an awardee. Each year we give the Paladin Award, which we award to someone who's or done significant work in this area. And Gregory Hinton, who many of you know, if you don't know, this is Gregory Hinton. He was the awardee last year. He could not get to Little Rock, but because he lives in LA, he came to Palm Springs. Then he went back to the rodeo grounds to get the award, and then he came back here to bring his own award here. I was half asleep when I got in Chuck's car. Anyway, what I would just like to do is to let you know that this award, same award we do every year, we give it to one person each year. It's a beautiful award designed with the Gay and Lesbian Rodeo Heritage Foundation logo on it. And I would like to present this to Gregory Hinton on behalf of the foundation and all things gay rodeo. So, congratulations. So grateful, thank you.
Thank you.
May I say a quick few words? That's okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, swell. I'm kind of moved. I've lived in Los Angeles for many years, but I started in Palm Springs literally 40 years ago, and I literally lived across the street from where we're sitting right now. We had moved here to start a gay bar out in Cathedral City, and kind of that got me rolling, and so I've been around for a long time. I'm also so moved by what we all accomplished in the last 10 years when Brian and Patrick and Tommy and Frank, of course we're missing Tom. Actually, all this is in a text that I should be reading, so I'm memorizing it here. But we had this vision of, and I didn't know you all, but we had this vision of like preserving and procuring and preserving and commemorating the history of LGBT history and the culture of the American West. And all of this is anchored by Gay Rodeo and what you all do to be visible when you go around to different communities, and what the original vision for Gay Rodeo was back in Reno in 1975. I just want to find a quote that was really, really important to me that I found in the Autry Library. That I have a program series called Out West, some of you know, and this quote inspired all the work that I've been doing with you all and others for the last 10 years. And it's I found it in a small folder that they had on Gay Rodeo, and it's a 1987 quote in the San Francisco Chronicle by some guy called John King. And the quote is, "A lot of people who grow up in rural communities come to the big city and then we lose our identities. The Gay Rodeo is a place for us to reclaim our heritage and be ourselves. It's a place where we fit in." And that succinctly put into motion kind of all the work that I've been doing with Western museums around the country. My beat is museums, libraries, and archives, and it's just been such a pleasure, like to see Blake Little's photographs, in these absolutely marvelous museums, some big, some small, around the country. They're heading for Tulsa, Oklahoma this coming month to be at the Gilcrease Museum. So I just am so grateful to the community for all that it's given to everybody else, but in particular to me. And Brian has just been a marvelous partner. He literally accepted a call from a stranger 10 years ago, and this award truly belongs to him. So thank you all so much. I'll see you guys.
If you're not aware, the gentleman was the one who originally got involved with getting the shirts from Brokeback Mountain donated to the artery, or at least one permanently donated to the artery. That's where this all started.
I think that this is the correct place to put it. I could be wrong. We were discussing this
Yep.
this morning at breakfast.
Okay.
TGRA would like to change our date for our rodeo next year for Memorial Day weekend, before everybody gets crazy. We did contact GPRR first to even, well, I always say it wrong in GPRA. Yeah, I know. Anyway, to make sure that it would be okay, should we go ahead and take that date? We are kind of considering it. It's not a, but yes, we would like to put that on the record.
Okay.
I just got a question regarding the website as far as scores. You can go on the website and look under your number and find out where you stand and everything. There's no standings or anything. All it is the results of the 2 rodeos.
Right.
Yes.
I was unaware that there was a problem with the system. Nobody told me. And in the process of rebuilding the system, we apparently deleted the file, the software files that made that system work. So it's gone. Those were custom handwritten by later. And I don't know where the files are. I don't have a copy of them, so I can't even restore them.
Okay.
Yes,
I think I can help with that then.
Okay.
'Cause, so I will get with Adam. Everybody, I don't know if everybody knew what happened or whatever, but, David might can explain a little bit better. The reason things had to happen pretty quickly was, things expired as far as like the, on the registration
The
side.
server updated their programs. Some of the older authorized.net items were not compatible anymore. So we had to update it.
So, I think everything was copied first, so I think we're okay. So I will.
Now, those are updated every rodeo by me. So I have them.
Okay, well, I don't have access to the system anymore, because all the access I have is FTP, and that's been removed.
And even rodeo registration, when I go, when I register for this rodeo, now I see they have, it shows you how much it's gonna cost you. It didn't have anything on that. It's still, you can't even, says type in a name for like a goat dressing partner or around there. There's no access. You have to scroll through everything.
Well, did you do it on your phone or did you do it on, it's not on your computer? You start typing the person's name, it goes to them.
There's no place to type.
Yeah, right. You still can't type in there. You have to scroll through everybody's name to get to where you want to, first and last name. And then he also programmed in there where if you enter a horse event, racing or speed, you have to have a stall. And I explained to him, I said, Adam, you can't do that. You can't make changes to this unless A, we've discussed it. B, people that do borrow horses will need a stall, and if you have limited stalls, you're now going to max out the stall. So I don't know if he's changed that back or not, and I know he's doing his best to try to get it in order. But right now, if you go online to register, just picking your partners, it's easier to just not, but I don't think that's an option anymore either.
Isn't it weird, like, so mine, like, if I just type in MERI like that, it goes right to anybody with that last name or whatever, and I click Sam, or I click Merriman, and then it goes over and your choices are Sam. So I don't know what's different.
I got it right now on my phone, and there's my team roping. If I hit on the partner, I can't type.
No, I know, but he told me it wasn't,
scroll.
the problem with it is, it's not iPhone compatible right now. I do know that, but he said he did it on his computer, so that's my worry, is what I need to ask.
What, now, when
Are
you
you on an
did your-
iPad?
Are you on like a laptop or just on like an
This is
iPad?
iPad right here.
Okay, so it's
That's
not,
why.
it's not Apple.
Operating system.
Okay.
We didn't know that.
It's not Apple.
So are we?
It's not Apple, he is fixing that. Okay, so that makes sense, okay. So if you do it on a regular one, it does autofill like that.
It's just general questions I wanted to know.
Okay.
Just while I was rodeo at the time, I didn't even know how much I have to pay.
Okay.
When it goes to check out.
And I will let Chuck, I'll check on that as well.
Now, are you receiving a confirmation email of what you entered? No.
No.
Not with the events listed.
Let me check, I can tell you.
That's not coming through.
No, I don't remember receiving that.
Because I do, must be all, so I'll see what we're doing to fix
Because,
that.
no, because the events have changed to $35. If you didn't know that, you're registering, so it doesn't even give you that info.
Yeah, it's gotta be the operating system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's gotta
So
be,
it's an
depends on the
iPhone.
other one. So I'll ask that date on that. Okay.
I also got an email asking about top 8, and I referred them to David.
Okay.
I don't know if the top 8 is back on the website or if that's.
It's not, because I just looked, all they have is standings. And basically on the standing, it's just, the scores, the results.
That is the top 8.
You
Top 8 are
got,
the
you got both top
results.
eights out there.
Yeah.
And that's all you got.
That's all, there's no standings.
No by association,
No.
by event, by contestant.
Okay.
There's none of that.
Any other new business?
I just wanted to bring up on the AR receiving report, or AR aging report, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 associations that have some outstanding
Oh,
money
I'd
due.
like to, yeah, would you?
Just as a reminder.
Okay.
The other thing is that besides that, we have almost $2,000 from individuals that are over 90 days. Mark Christensen, Adam Johnson, King and Queen of Rodeo, Texas, Dennis Kitchen, Edla Brash, Nicholas Matthews, Jeffrey Smith, Sharon Starks.
This list is on.
Oh, yep, okay, she's on there too. So what do we do in these cases? Do we reach out to them and advise them? I mean, I'm just wondering if these people even are aware of it.
They received an invoice originally.
Okay. I know you're good at
Send a
that.
statement today.
Well, one of them hasn't been in DSRA for the last 4 or 5 years. Y'all can just keep sending invoices, but he's not gonna pay it.
Then we need to have a motion to write it off.
You need it right now?
This is-
What was it for?
He didn't show up.
He didn't show up for
Fine,
finals.
do IGRA people.
Well,
GPR
who is?
also on there for the insurance.
Yeah.
Nicholas
He
Matthews.
doesn't even belong.
Well, so we can make a motion to go ahead and get rid of the amount due, but put him in bad standing as far as competing.
Yeah, you have to do both.
Well, yeah, it's just, that's what I was gonna ask, is that we also need to.
Yeah.
Look at
I
that
Yeah.
standing so
Somebody
that, as
remember.
IGRA, how does that work? I'm sorry, I don't know that I on my part. How does that work for IGRA? If IGRA puts them in bad standing, does that include in all associations if they're sanctioned by IGRA? It would,
Yes.
correct?
That's the way that bylaw reads, the
So-
IGRA.
So then a notification would have to go out to all associations that,
I remind everybody that we are live right now, so if you have a concern about putting people's names out there.
Okay.
okay, so as I was saying, whomever this is that, I don't even know what we're talking about, but whomever it is, then we would have to send a notification to all associations, right, saying that this individual is in bad standing, would have to be corrected by IGRA before.
Correct.
they join.
Yes.
Now, is that something we need to do in the trustees meeting, or is that something we do here in the board directors meeting?
I believe it's a trustee item.
Okay.
Which relates to
That's a
competitive.
membership, that's a membership credential committee, or membership.
Membership
committee.
So Lisa will take care of that in the next meeting?
I don't even know where he is.
Oh, that's
No,
fine.
if she's gonna make a motion on that because of her member, she can make that motion here. We were having found that's a board decision. You're talking about a financial,
Oh, okay.
bill that's due.
So you're saying we need to do it here?
She can, if she wants to make the motion to write it off, as David said.
That's a financial thing, not a membership thing.
Gotcha, I got you.
And then as a result, it might roll over to the trustees to handle.
Jeffrey, do you have a penny? If you could give David a penny, he could take it out of there. There's a penny out there. There's a penny out there.
Okay, so.
I have one in my bag. I'll fundraise for it tomorrow.
I have one.
The shortest one there.
Okay, any other new business?
Give it to David quick.
I think on the social
I'm
issues.
not gonna give that to David. That's for NPR.
Well, 2 of them are GTRA 36. Illinois
If we're.
Why? Can we go on mute if we're gonna talk about the mounted people?
Yes, we go on mute for a moment. Any other new business? Guess we're moving to adjourn.
I have a quick announcement, but
Okay.
on the original archives report at the bottom, I listed a new IGRA archives email address, which is a Gmail address. I hate Gmail. And since it's the archives, I'm going with good old AOL.com. IGRA archives at AOL.com, and it is listed under the committee chairs on the IGRA website.
Has Canyon Travel gone?
That's my personal.
But it's still good?
It's still good.
Okay, 'cause I was gonna leave, I was gonna cross the street.
Okay, any other announcements? Okay, so I think we're gonna take a lunch break, right?
Yay.
Denny's looks like the closest.
Well,
No.
I can give you ideas.
Okay, within walking distance?
There's John's right down the street, it's about a block away.
Okay.
It's on the other side of the street, it's really good. You know, it just has hamburger, Mexican food, everything you need over there. And if you wanna go down, there's, on the corner of Visitino, there's Rick's Cuban restaurant, there's Draftsman, there's Denny's across the street, you drive downtown, there's Blaze Pizza, there's a bunch of other, Thai Smile. All within, everything's within a mile of here. So any.
Just remember your AARP card gets you a 15%.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Denny's, can we leave everything here?
I don't see a problem.
Don't have mine with me.
I'll ask them for
Okay.
time.
Whenever you reconvene.
Yeah, what time we get?
My dad's the 233.
You and I and Ron talked about the other meetings, I think so. Okay.
It's almost 4 now.
All right, 1 o'clock.
For now. Just want to make a quick break.
15.
So let's call the trustees meeting to order at 1:17.
I need to get to my list for the roll call in just a second.
Thank you.
Relax. Whoops. Michael Brandt's here.
Here. Can't talk right now.
Just knock.
Hello.
What's up?
I saw.
Oh. Oh. Hang on.
I'll send out a sign-in sheet. Michael Lentz is here. Jack.
He just stepped out to take a
Okay,
walk.
okay. Lisa's here.
I'm here.
Liz. Steve has stepped out.
Correct.
Amy's here. No one from Keystone. Anyone from here from IGRA? IGRA. No one here from Missouri?
The next item is the IGRA rodeo application for 2018. So that was on your attachments. Michael, did you want to give us any input on that, or any information?
It just, oh, crap.
It's just that we need a variance for the size of the arena and it's a limited rodeo as far as horse events, speed events.
Any discussion?
Who made the motion to approve? Or have you done that?
We have not.
Okay.
We're looking at
Okay.
the application. I did discuss with Ron Trusley about that first bucking chute. On the outside, there's a bar that's too high for anybody to go on that. So if they just make sure that gets addressed. And I think there was also some concern about those return gates, that there's some dangerous situations in there. I don't know if there's any way to look at that or address it, but I do know that the dirt conditions were vastly improved in previous years, so that was great.
I think we can address those, and if you could remind me a little bit later on, maybe we might go out to run this together.
Sure.
And do that. So.
Very good. So any more discussion? If not, we need a motion to approve IGRA's rodeo application.
So moved. Second.
Who moved?
Jeff and Tim.
Oh, Jeff, for you.
Jeff,
Yeah, actually.
Okay.
All those in
verbally,
favor?
I'll answer to it.
All those in favor of IGRA's rodeo application for 2019, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, we have the variance for World Year Rodeo Finals 2018 Mesquite. Was that already handled?
No, it has not. It was a new submission this weekend.
And that was on the arena size because of the width being 109, so the requirements. We need a motion.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? Any discussion? No discussion? Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is rodeo rule interpretation on Rule 3A5C. This also came up at the TGRA rodeo regarding a hat. There was a review filed. I guess the judge initially disqualified the contestant because they felt the hat was not on the head. As the contestant entered the arena, a review was filed. The funds were put up front. It went through the proper channels. I do believe it was elevated to the trustees. The trustees had a discussion on that. The trustees did believe that according to the way the rule was written, that the contestant should not have been DQ'd, and they reinstated the contestant's time. Do I have that pretty much correct?
That's exactly correct.
Okay, so I believe at that point in time, they wanted to bring that to the trustees to take a look at that and see if there's anything that we need to do to assist with that. So one thing just to make sure is that we really can't change the rule from the way that it's written. That would have to go to convention if someone wants to propose a rule that better clarifies that. But I think what we're trying to do here is make sure that we as a body get with the officials to make sure that they can assess this rule equally, uniformly, consistently, collaboratively, whatever you want to call it. So is there any action items that anybody would like to take on this?
I got a comment.
Lisa?
I think the trustees need to get with their contestants also and just, kind of tell them that, they should wear their hats where there's maybe not a questionable interpretation. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Something like that. I mean, it goes both ways.
It was, not a new contestant, but a contestant that was new to speed events.
Right.
And, we as a group, we have a tendency to give the benefit of the doubt. Because we want to try and stop disqualifications before they occur if we possibly can, and, level playing field and all that. I don't remember this ever being an issue before, but given the way the rule is currently written, what transpired in Texas, right?
Yes.
Texas. The contestant was within the rules, but it didn't feel right and it didn't look right.
Yeah. I was the rodeo review chair at that rodeo, or one of them, and I think you were the other one, right?
Yeah, I think so.
At that one. But I think what happened is, if I'm not mistaken, that the rule reads that it must be on their head, and
Must be on head.
must be on head. And I'll tell you why I even accepted it as the rodeo review chair. I took it from the perspective that in talking to the judge, it appeared that there might be a misinterpretation on where on the head, because it doesn't indicate that in the rules. So that might be, if we want to get that particular, but it just seemed as if by statement, and this is on the rodeo review sheet, because I wrote it on the sheet, so I'm not saying anything that isn't public. The judge told me the only thing holding the hat on was the sissy string. Those were his exact words. For that reason, I went ahead and took the $40 and accepted it as a possible misinterpretation of what that rule was. Because it doesn't say that it has to be there by itself, and it doesn't say that it can't be being held off the head. So that's just information for you to think about if you're thinking about proposing a change. I don't particularly think we need a change. My personal opinion only, but that's what happened, and that's why but I also believe that when we overturn a decision of a judge at a rodeo, we can't interpret rules at a rodeo because the entire board's not there. The trustees is there. However, but when we step over that line and we actually overturn a decision of a judge, then I think we have a responsibility to make sure that that rule is clear to how it should be interpreted by the judges at future rodeos and posted as such.
Could we use Sam's hat as an example?
I can show you exactly.
Where was the hat?
I'll show you.
The thing is,
The hat was in the
the
back.
situation
I
is
saw it
such
run.
that you could have
It's got
argued
the little
it
bit on the
here.
back.
Blown back and held on by the string.
Yeah.
Well, it was a long alleyway, and so I think when she took off, the question was whether she entered the arena with it on her head or not on her head was the question of where the hat was sitting.
But it was on her head.
The hat was sitting just like this,
Okay, so what
being
is-
held on by the sissy string.
And what does the rule
That
state?
keeps track.
The rule says that the hat must be on the head.
It was on the head.
Do we believe with
I
what
do.
you're showing that the hat was on the contestant's head?
I do, based on that simple on the head statement, I believe it was on the head.
So is there any action that the trustees want to do here in clarifying or helping to clarify what we believe the intent of that rule is?
Can I?
My interpretation, my standing interpretation has always been typical sissy string action is that the hat is hanging back here and it's just hanging on around your neck. we still think that's a DQ and that's not on the head, right?
That is correct.
Okay,
I would agree with
that
that.
was the thing that was scaring me. My first read of this was that the hat was around only being held on by the neck, and that's not a head. Okay.
So a part of this rule though also is the lead-up alley, correct, where it's been designated before the rodeo, where that was, and that was part of the controversy too. Whether the hat was here in the lead-up alley and then went to that point when it hit the arena, but that lead-up area is considered part of the arena if it's already been designated.
It was the designated point was where the hat was at the designated point was back. It was back like this, being held on. It had actually, coming up the alley, it had actually blowed up to this position.
That's correct.
So
But it was on.
Is the alleyway designated as part of the arena?
Yes.
And how was that information relayed to the contestant?
That I don't know, Chuck. I honestly don't know. I just asked where, at the time of the situation, I asked the arena director, where did you designate the arena start? Because I didn't know. I honestly didn't.
When she did all of her runs, she did, as I was the assistant blue, so I was the one pulling it. She always started with her hat like this. She had already lost it once completely, and then this thing broke. And so on that particular run, as she was going down the alleyway, it's exactly what Jean said. It did this, and then as she entered, I don't know what happened at that point.
It stayed on. I mean, it stayed in that position the whole run.
Yeah.
It wasn't a question that it came off,
Jack.
So I think there's 2 points here, and that's the point I was going to bring up, is where is the designated point? And I don't think that we do a great job of communicating that to contestants. So I think we have an opportunity there, whether it's putting on a posting board or whatever, but we don't do a good job of communicating that to contestants. That's the first one. Second one, the purpose of a stampede strap is so it stays on your head usually. And if it's off, I mean, I think we already established that as long as it's on your head and the crown center is not off the head, that is on your head. So even if it blows off during the entry or the point of where the timing begins or what is considered the alleyway, I mean, it seems like we're consensus that still is on your head.
I think most cases, if the alleyway is considered the arena, we normally try to post that on the posting board that the arena starts, 6 feet from, in the alley or whatever it may be. But
maybe I said this wrong. Maybe I said something wrong here because that sounds like I misled somebody. The alleyway was designated at the gate.
Yeah.
Okay.
At the gate. The alleyway itself was
out
not part of the arena.
Okay.
So it was, when I asked Jeannie about it, it was designated at the gate.
Okay.
That's a presumption on all of our parts, I think almost all the time, unless we're told differently that the alley is part of the arena.
Okay.
It was at the gate.
Okay.
But it was still in this position though,
Okay.
being held on by the assistant string when she went past that spot.
Amy?
I think, okay, so the first time she lost her hat, she didn't have a stampede strap.
It
right?
did.
It was.
It was.
Okay, so the second stampede strap must have been, I don't know, a shoelace or something, because it was sufficiently short.
It was
that it
ridiculous.
like caught on her chin or something, and that's the only reason why her hat was still
It
on
actually
her
caught
head.
on her.
But I think it seems abundantly clear that we understand the difference between on here or, down your back.
So Jack, as a takeaway to the ROC committee, would they look into the question on the designation of the arena alleyway type thing?
If you try to put that to walk like that again,
Just to make sure that that's communicated.
it's one of those situations you'll never get to.
Okay.
So there's no motion on changing anything as far as an interpretation of that rule at this time about the hat being on the head?
Correct. I did forget to put the Phoenix pole bending on the agenda. So,
Okay.
I guess I'm going to ask the big elephant question. That then since we overturned that judge's decision, do we need to, how do we communicate that back, I guess, through Jack? This is a question, I don't know the answer.
Recommendation?
That we communicate that back to make sure that he is on the same page since he
He's
made that
right
call?
here.
Not Jack didn't make the decision. Jack didn't make the call, the judge who made the call. Do we need to communicate that at least back so that he understands what his interpretation needs to be?
You could ask him as an ROC chair.
I don't know how else to say it. Because I was kind of in shock. So was I.
So Gene is just asking
No,
Jack.
no, can you clarify, so Gene just said, since we overturned the judge, we just made no motion, so how did we?
At the rodeo, the trustees present overturned the judge's decision.
Thank you.
And I really just feel strongly that when we do that, that's a big, huge step that we need to take some
I
action
just wasn't
on.
following in the.
But it's
Yeah.
not all the same trustees either, right?
Jeff.
Thank you. This bothers me. You didn't overturn a judge's decision. You ruled it as a misinterpretation.
Correct.
So sorry, but I want to make sure you can't overturn a judge's decision. It's a
I agree.
Yeah, so sorry,
I agree.
Any other discussion? Okay, let's bring up the poll bending in Phoenix. Was there a review filed on that? There was a review
Yes, there
filed on
was.
that where the contestant believed that they were DQ'd because of the horse crossing the path. I'm going off memory, so help me out if you need to. And then the review stood because the official felt that that it was in compliance with the rule. It did not go to the trustees.
It did.
It did? Okay.
It did go.
Okay.
And that was paid upfront. It was the $40 was paid. I was the rodeo review, and the rodeo review trustees at that one also.
Here's the pattern. Just kidding.
Okay, to be clear,
I
neither one of these reviews were based on decisions that I made.
That's correct. That is correct. Now, there's still a pattern.
It's a broken pattern.
It's a broken pattern.
It was based on the interpretation of a broken pattern in pole bending. I wanted to make a diagram, but I'm not artistic, but Jack is doing it for us. So, but the issue was that the judge disqualifying for a broken pattern based on the fact that during the inbound run, the contestant crossed the plane of the poles, where the poles sit, to the opposite side, but he came back to that side that he should have been on. Based on the
Okay, go draw that.
No, Jack, draw the line down. This is how the picture in the rule book shows it.
Yes.
Just like this.
So this is, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, because I
You
don't
got
want
the
to
picture.
Okay. So this is how it's described in the rule book, and this is actually the diagram that's in the rule book. You run up, and out, back down. The way it's always been judged is this is pretty much a line that you cannot cross as well on your initial straight in or out that would be considered a broken pattern. So as the contestant came in here, I think it was between 2 and 3 or maybe 3 and 4. Anyways, with
3 and 4.
3 and 4. Okay, so here, what they did was the horse came here and weaved back out. So the contention was that since they didn't go past this pole, that they didn't break the pattern. Judgment call was, yes, you broke the pattern because you crossed this plane, as the way we've always judged it.
He broke the barrier right there.
Correct. That's the way we've always judged it. Now, not all associations, the contention was not all associations judge that as a broken pattern. We always have, and yes, that's in the
And
way
it was accepted based on the fact that in our rule book, it only shows this perfect diagram. And reality is that we have lots of variations of that inbound and that outbound run that we don't consider broken patterns because they don't break that center barrier. They can go way the hell over here in the arena and come back. It doesn't have to be a perfect straight line down there, and that's not a broken pattern as long as they don't back up or turn and go across themselves.
Exactly. You're exactly right. And then the way the judges have always called it is this doesn't have to be straight.
Right.
As long, you could go all the way out here on your initial run in, or all the way out here, and then you do coming out. As long as it's a forward motion and you're not either going back or crossing with the path that's already been traveled, I think is the way it's worded. And so it doesn't have to be a straight line, it can be, as long as you don't go back.
Right. And the guy who did it, the reason that he asked for it to be brought for an interpretation was, and this is why it's important, is that he's basing that on that same forward motion logic of, as long as he didn't break forward motion between those two poles and came back out on the correct side, our rules don't say anywhere that you can't cross that, even though we've always judged it that way. And I've never, every place I've ever been.
Trying to find in the rule book where that crossing your path is.
It doesn't.
It doesn't exist?
No, all it says is that you've broken up or crossing travel path. It doesn't
Where is
say-
that? I'm trying to find that.
It says travel
Travel
path.
Travel path.
So my question is, if you broke it, are you going all the way to the end of the road?
Right, it's just before barrel race.
If it's the
As long as it's on the same side.
Yeah, no, but if you know, like you go down, come across, it goes all the way to the race, that's not big town.
As long as you don't cross that plane of that center line.
Right there.
Yeah.
There we go. Right there.
Can't
Okay.
come back.
This is the rule. You guys, this is the rule.
Yeah.
On the screen or on the wall over here. And it has C as broken pattern or crossing travel.
Right. And
That's the one that we feel.
that's what's in concert.
A, we need to refer this to Rodeo Rules of Convention to try to clarify that. B, what do we need to do to assure or to assist the officials to uniformly judge this?
I think that the officials are already uniformly judging this.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I agree that the officials are uniformly judging it, but the issue that I think needs addressed is that based on the written rules, and the only reason I bring this is I asked them to send me, I asked the guy who was involved, and I also asked David Lawson, one of the contestant liaisons, to send me the wording from other associations defining this broken pattern, crossing the travel path, and this terminology that they've been using of forward motion. I said, send me that wording, and they didn't get it, and they didn't give it to me. And I think, honestly, and Chuck and I was talking about this earlier this morning, I think there is each association has their judges judge it the way they understand it to be, and that terminology has come up with those judges. IGRA judges are judging this the way they all understand it to be, and so forth. But the problem is our rules, this person did not cross his travel path.
But he did break the pattern.
But according to the way we judge and the way we understand it, he didn't break the pattern because we don't define what a broken pattern is.
Well,
We just say.
It's a picture. Jeff is next.
So,
I understand. I get it. I'm on that side. I'm trying to.
Okay, so I was there. I was in a position where I saw that run from the vantage point right next to unobstructed to the poles. And it was extremely contentious. It was extremely long discussion about it. And the issue was not about breaking pattern where it broke the pole line, because the contestant did not do that. What happened is the horse was moving forward, sidestepped a good horse width and back, but kept moving forward. The contestant's position was, I kept moving forward without starting my run into the pattern. The judge's point of view, and they do fairly do this point, is that the horse broke pattern. But they didn't break the pole line, so they didn't do as deep a thing. It was a sidestep on their forward motion. And so the question was, can the rule book be interpreted that if they don't go in an exact straight line, are they breaking pattern? And to the other side of Jack's point, judges would interpret, if you do a wide swing, you could do a wide swing. It's going to affect your time on the event, but you can do that. And so the contentious piece of this, and the part that's not clarified in the rules, is not the issue of breaking the line. If you break the line, I think everybody's going to say, yes, you broke pattern. The issue here is if the horse is entering the arena and going up the straight line on the initial run, is there a window where the horse can be moving side to side as well as forward as long as they don't break the full pattern? And that's where I walked away from the meeting.
Jack,
So two things. That I was the judge there, so we can get that elephant out of the room. And the judgment call was made because the line of the pole was broken. That's why the call was made. Second thing is on page 40, it does say pole bending, refer to Exhibit Q pole bending diagram. So it is very clear that you cannot cross, in my opinion anyways, that's what we're deciding, right? That it definitely shows you do not cross that line or that barrier, whatever we want to call it.
Okay, so is this the very first time it's ever happened? So do we really
I
need
think
to?
it actually happened at finals too. I think there was a questionable.
It was a different scenario at finals, but it's.
Well, the reason I'm saying is if we really want to go try to redo writing rules to something that may.
We cannot do that here, that is not.
Right, yeah, right, that's what I'm saying, but I'm
trying to do is help understand the way the rules are written.
Well, to me, when you, right, because if you run down, if you go anywhere in between those poles, the intention of it is to run all the way down and go around that end pole first. So if you go anywhere in between those poles in between, then to me.
But what we don't want to do here is add more personal interpretation.
Right, that's what I'm saying, but that
we
would be
want to
the
help
thing.
the officials make sure that they understand how they're supposed to make these calls. And we agree that broken pattern or crossing travel path is very ambiguous. And we need to work on that at convention. That's our first suggestion.
Right.
The second one is there anything that we can do here to help the officials with that interpretation? Do we feel there's a need to, or do we agree with what their interpretation is?
You're at time.
I think that
You're at time.
Motion to extend.
Second. All those in favor of extending discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Very good. Start the clock.
I think the combination of the picture and the words, from a red department point of view, the combination of the words and the picture, it's very clear. I don't think it needs any help. It's an occasion that happens very, very, very rarely, and I think that everybody that's a currently certified judge is looking at it exactly the same way.
I'm actually on the National Pole Bending Association website, and their rule is basically not going to pole, you disqualify. If you vary from the pattern in any way, it is a disqualification. And that is not the pattern by doing that in cyclists.
You probably need that.
That's probably why David Lawson didn't send it to Gene.
Right, because that's the.
Well, it's so hard to find in other people's rules. I mean, we're the only association anywhere that publishes
See, to
our
me,
complete
to me,
set of
that's
rules
just
for
as
anybody
negative.
to see. Yeah.
No, it says no failure to follow the course shall cause disqualification. Full stop, end of story. Now, if you've done a poll, disqualification.
So can you email that to? Who's
I'm
running our rules?
the Texas director of that, so I
There you
can
go.
get you whatever you want.
There you go.
We need to get that to whoever rodeo rule chairs are, so we can get them to consider.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Knocking down the wall.
I think Jack is next. and then
I was
Or
thinking, thank you, I was just gonna say, that to your point, to your question earlier, yes, this isn't the first time it has happened before. This is the first time I can remember someone reviewing that call. So I don't, my opinion is I don't think it needs an interpretation by this body. I think that it's pretty clear and everybody knows it, and it's clear in the rule book, but that's my 2 cents from a red department and from, I think, pretty much all the judges. It was a particular individual, I think, not a situation.
So are you stating that the judges are interpreting this rule or rules to state that on the inbound or outbound run, if the horse breaks any of the pole line plane, that they would be disqualified?
Yes, and we have had this conversation on our last judges call as well. So it has been adjusted and consistent, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there was a single judge that said or thought any differently.
Can we get that in writing to David so that's put on the boards at the rest of the rodeos this year until we can get rodeo rules to address this? Very good.
And I think that was my next.
Lisa, what you are, and then Lisa.
Okay, so, and I agree with Jack. I think that though, that is really all we need to say is that deviation across the plane of those is considered breaking the pattern. Because we don't want to get into that forward motion thing, because there's a whole, that's not what was, was not what was part of this review. This review was over the fact that when the judge was asked what DQ was for, it was because it broke the plane, the horse broke the plane of those poles and came back, period. That was what the review was over. Or that's why it was DQ'd, which caused the review. So I do think we should put that language on the board so that they understand that that is how the judges view it and are going to call it. But I don't think we need to get too much deeper in that. That's all I wanted to say.
Chuck, can I ask for clarification then? When you said get something to David?
Actually get it to us, the trustees first.
Right, it needs to come to the trustees.
Yes,
The
no,
trustees
yeah,
can do
yeah.
that interpretation.
Absolutely.
And I think it's as simple as what Liz brought up, in the deviation from any, maybe you can write this, the deviation from any deviation from the prescribed pattern per the diagram, what we call disqualification.
That's what I was hoping you would avoid.
Yeah,
because
well, opens the
that
door
kind of
to
changes the
line.
rules.
That's right.
Okay.
Well, and it also makes that big sweep to the right a DQ.
I think we want to go with the inbound and outbound.
Yeah.
runs.
Breaking the
Will
plane
be
of the
considered a broken pattern if they break
Yes.
the plane of the pole.
Okay.
So it still allows, movement.
Okay.
So if y'all make an interpretation, then I can send that out to where it gets posted in all the other rodeos.
But we need to write the interpretation now.
Yes.
It should be voted on.
Yes.
Yeah, is a thing.
Yes. So we need to write that down now, and then we're going to vote on that if this board wants
So-
to.
So who's gonna word it and I'll write it down?
You ready?
I'm ready.
In pole bending, the inbound and outbound runs will be considered a broken pattern if the horse/rider breaks the plane of the pole line or line of poles.
Line of poles.
Line of poles.
Line of poles.
Period?
Period.
Period.
So who's making the motion?
Well, can you read it back, please?
Any inbound or outbound runs will be considered a broken pattern if the horse or the rider breaks the line of poles.
Breaks the plane of the line of poles.
Yeah.
Read it one more time.
Say crosses.
Okay. In pole bending, if the rider inbound or outbound runs will be considered a broken pattern if the horse or rider breaks the line of poles. Do we want?
The plane of the line of poles.
So are you considering the nose of the horse, just touching the pole, or the
Yes.
whole horse?
Any part.
Any horse or rider.
Don't
break that plane. The
Okay.
plane of pole line.
It could be 1 foot.
There was a plane in there.
Okay. So I got plane of line of poles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Motion? Michael Brandt, motion. Second. Mark Scout. Any discussion?
Yeah, can we say, to me, that just, can we say the plane created by the line of poles? So change it to the plane created by the line of poles.
Okay.
I think that's more.
The plane created by a line of poles.
If that's acceptable to whom?
Friendly amendment accepted?
And then whoever seconded has to approve that.
Second.
So we slow down and stay like that. I'm just saying, if it's down like that, it's outside.
Any more discussion?
You don't run that tight anymore.
And this is.
Moving fast.
I hope you're still talking about your bullpen.
Steve should turn the rest of our. We need to put this on the contestant boards, just that the trustees met regarding to help clarify, this rule, so they don't think that we're changing the rule. Any more discussion?
Michael is best at writing these out.
He really is.
Okay.
Do we need to vote on it?
Yeah.
Those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, next item is the TGRA rodeo fine for the arena size. Any discussion? TGRA was fined for their arena size not conforming to the required,
They didn't have a variance.
so they did have a variance.
Well, one reason was the last minute move of our rodeo, of not being able to get the variance. Also, it did have to do with some of the ownership there, and newly taking it over, and us trying to get it, actually, we had to kind of go to the city and pull everything, so we knew what the actual arena size was. But honestly, it really had to do with the last minute move on our rodeo, that's really what it had to do with it. So there was no way to really put the variance in.
Is there a reasonable way we could have gone payments or anything else?
Do what?
I would make a motion to not fine TGRA.
I'll second it.
What you do, that would be to rescind the fine.
Rescind, yeah.
Rescind the fine. Okay.
I'll second it.
Extenuate.
Discussion? Michael?
Yeah, I'm opposed to rescinding the fine. I mean, IGRA paid the fine when we had to move our rodeo 5 days before the rodeo back in '94. And
this is
it's happened to other people. And that's the cost of doing business. If you move your rodeo, you can't get the variance, it's too late, and you just live with it. And it wasn't intentional. And so we don't have any judgment against you that you intentionally did something wrong, but that's a fineable offense, and a fine should stay.
Then I don't think we should wait for finals.
Well, we've got paid against going for finals.
Lisa?
I think the fine should stay too, because the rodeo director didn't discover that the width didn't meet standards till Friday before the rodeo.
That is not true, Lisa.
That's what he
That
told
is
me.
no, it is not. I don't know where you got that.
Let's stop here, we're not gonna debate that.
I was told
Yes.
by the
Well, anyway,
rodeo director.
Lisa has
And
the floor, you guys.
I'm just telling you that that's exactly what he told me, and if you wait till the last minute on things, I mean, I was more concerned about what the contestants needed to know, not necessarily them getting the paperwork in for a variance.
Any other discussion? Vote on the motion. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Show of hands.
A hand vote? Okay. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 5. Those opposed, please raise your hand. 8. Motion fails. Old business. Anybody have anything for old business to review? Tommy, are you old business?
None of you, John.
You're looking at me like, oh.
John's not in here?
Okay, anything for new business? Oh, Brian, yes. Your old business?
Yep. And MGRA put in a request for rodeo school with the previous secretary, and I'm wondering if it made it to the current secretary.
I have not seen it.
Your rodeo school is when?
In August.
Yes.
For,
Santa Fe.
Santa Fe, New
oh,
Mexico.
I thought you said Missouri.
No.
Oh.
In MGRA.
Sorry.
Do we want to wait to get that application for the next meeting, or do we want to address that now? We assume that it's been sent, it's just stuck in Ron's email.
Is there a time limit? Just says before the rodeo.
Our next board meeting is Kansas City, correct?
Which is after.
That's after 2000.
Can you do it by email?
Well, I'm just asking, we can't do it right now.
Okay.
They've done it
When
before,
did
they
you-
requested it before, he submitted it,
When
it just
did you
hasn't
submit
been
it?
transitioned.
Did you submit it electronically to Ron?
I did.
Do you have a copy?
I'm looking for it now.
Yeah, just.
Well, I saw it.
Ron is in the process of transitioning, as he says, a lot of.
I'm sure.
A lot of information, yes.
I did send a new copy to you and to you, Michael.
Okay.
Now, current.
Oh, interesting.
I sent it to your SBS Global.
Yep, I got it.
Okay, are we good, Michael?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a request for funds from NMGRA for Rodeo School in August. We need a motion on the floor.
So moved.
We need a second.
Second?
Any discussion?
What's the total amount?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Is it $800?
It's $500 per rodeo school.
500.
How many have we approved this year already?
2. Red River and Keystone request?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They just had the 2 weeks ago.
No, there's some, the one we had last weekend, or I went to it, was separate, but then there's the school that's the
The
day
only
of.
one that,
too,
the only
right?
one we, at the last board meeting was Red Rivers, we haven't seen Keystone's document. I don't disagree that we need to, I wondered why they hadn't sent one in.
Okay.
Now, I know the one last weekend turned into a royalty person's fundraiser for their requirements. And my, just as an executive board member, I would say if a royalty person is conducting a fundraiser, that $500 would that be eligible to go to a royalty person in an association for fundraising? That's what I was, okay. So,
Probably need to follow up with that, we'll see if he needs to.
yeah. Okay.
I've only paid for one.
Okay. Thank you.
How many we got budgeted for?
Four a year, I thought it was. Yeah.
Any other discussion? Brian?
Current form on the website has Ron Trust's address on it.
Okay.
I'll fix that.
It says, please submit this form with any additional documentation. To follow, IGRA Secretary, 4206 North 67 Lane, Phoenix, Arizona.
We believe you.
No, you don't.
Usually you're playing music.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
On Keystone States.
These have.
Give me the paperwork and I'll pay it.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, yeah, my question is, could you all ask, the folks that go to rodeos, I'm not getting any reports on animal injuries or potential animal injuries or dangerous things. I need to get some killer reports on animal issues, so.
When I sent the Texas stuff, if there had been any animal injuries, it would have been in that
Yes,
state
yeah,
budget.
yeah, no, and I get that as well, but sometimes little things are not written down.
Correct.
Just like to be told of anything that people don't.
Right, next.
I would like to remind everyone that if you've got a rodeo school planned, let me know so I can put it on the calendar. 90% of your non-IGRA members, the general public, they go to this page to find out what's going on. And I'm hearing a bunch of rodeo schools planned that I've never heard of before.
Keystone's definitely is on their thing, along with the junior rodeo. They do have a rodeo school Friday morning.
I will let them know.
Any other new business? Seeing none, we'll adjourn the meeting at 2:04. We do have an EPRB meeting after this that is only trustees, not alternates. So we can start that in about 10 minutes if you guys need a break or right away.